Fox Sports welcomes you back to the Great American Race and the Daytona 500 as we count you down. 17 states represented today in this race with drivers from California and Missouri, 6 different drivers from each of those states. And we have 6 drivers competing in their first Daytona 500 ever, including Martin Truex Jr. leading the way from the 10th spot on the grid. Right now, let's pause and reflect as we take you down trackside for the opening ceremonies.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please rise and remove your hats as the Military District of Washington Joint Armed Forces Color Guard present our nation's colors. And now, will you please welcome Dr. Tim McNeil as he delivers today's invocation.
Let us pray. We celebrate, O God, today the spirit of America and celebrate this great American race. We pray for these ambassadors of speed. Grant them courage, wisdom, and valor as they run the race before us. And grant that we may be ambassadors of a new era, building bridges of hope, promise, and peace throughout all the nations. Shalom and amen.
And now, please welcome back actress, singer Vanessa Williams as she performs our national anthem.
See by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Gentlemen, Vanessa Williams, with a little help from the F-15Cs out of Tyndall Air Force Base.
The Great American Race and all our troops everywhere around the world watching. We salute you on the Armed Forces Television Network. Doug Fisher over in the Middle East, his father Ted works with us, and we're all proud. This broadcast in high def, and those people sitting up high, they'll be less deaf when the cars go racing around as the drivers settle in. More than $17 million on the line. No matter what the result, it's worth the ride.
$17 million. 185 miles an hour. It's the greatest stock car race in the world.
Since 1959, 25 different drivers have hoisted the Harley J. Earl Trophy. A win in this event not only makes your season, it makes your career. Today, two of NASCAR's most prolific wheelmen, Mark Martin and Rusty Wallace, hope to begin their final season by doing something they've never done before: win the Great American Race.
Hey, football teams get 6 months leading up to the Super Bowl. How does 2 weeks sound? 132 crew members change teams, and they will get their first race together today, the Super Bowl of NASCAR.
Today's race seen in 150 countries in 23 different languages. In the grandstands, fans from 20 different countries, including Australia, Japan, Mexico, Switzerland, even Sweden.
And 200,000 fans here in attendance watching drivers go 200 miles per hour. We'll be back. Fox Sports welcomes you back to Daytona, the Great American Race. Let's go down to the track for the command.
And now, for the most famous words in motorsports, from the action-adventure film Sahara, opening April 8th in theaters everywhere, actor Matthew McConaughey.
All right, all right, all right. Gentlemen, start your engine!
An emotional command from Matthew. Now the guys who will call the race, and they're getting fired up. The voices of NASCAR on Fox: Darrell Waltrip, Larry McReynolds. Let's also welcome in Mike Joy. Hey, Mike, you guys ready to go?
We've been waiting all winter for this, Chris. Now, that was 16 years ago, Darrell. You and me in Victory Lane, we only had one microphone then, but Scott runs up to me this morning. He's 5 years old. He goes, Dad, tell me this is the Daytona 500.
Listen, I know how it feels. Listen, I laid awake all night long. I didn't sleep at all that night. I prayed. I prayed for my car. I prayed for my team. I was so nervous, and that's the way every driver feels when you start this race. Anticipation. You're anticipating so many things. You borrow trouble. You think of every possible scenario that could go wrong. What's going to happen to my car? What's going to happen to my crew? What's going to happen when somebody bump drafts me? Are they going to hit me too hard and wreck me? So many things go through your mind. But you know what? At the end of the day, and where you and I were, it's all about relief. I am so relieved to finally have won the Daytona 500.
It's the biggest day of a driver's life, but Larry McReynolds, you have 2 of those championship rings as crew chief with Davey Allison and Dale Earnhardt. What did winning this race mean to you?
Well, Mike, it's something I thought about when I was a little boy, coming in here sitting in the grandstands. It's something that I thought about working on those short track cars around Birmingham. The first 11 years I came here as a crew chief, and you would be pumped up to win it, and then you'd leave here and saying, you know what, we'll get them next year. And finally in 1992, won that Daytona 500 with Davey Allison. You feel like your career is complete, and to come back for a second time in 1998 and win it with Dale Earnhardt, and I put this ring on, and it's one, other than my wedding ring, it's one of my most prized possessions, because winning the Daytona 500 twice is 2 of the most special moments in my career and in my life.
Nobody else might kiss this ring, but I sure do.
It's the biggest single day of any stock car racer's career, the Daytona 500. Budweiser, official beer of NASCAR, proud sponsor of the Budweiser Pole Award, given to the fastest qualifier at each Nextel Cup race. Budweiser congratulates Dale Jarrett. There is the last man to win the Daytona 500 from the pole, Dale Jarrett, a 3-time winner of the Daytona 500. Here's how they will line up today. Alongside Jarrett, Jimmy Johnson, winner of 4 of the last 6 Nextel Cup races. In row 2, the winners of Gatorade's Duel at Daytona, Michael Waltrip, Tony Stewart. Row 3, defending 500 champ Dale Earnhardt Jr. with Jeff Burton, new leader of the Childress team, perhaps. Mike Skinner and Kevin LePage, 2 dark horses in Dodges. Row 5, the Rocket, Ryan Newman and Martin Truex Jr., the Busch Series champion. Row 6, Ricky Rudd in his 28th 500, and Scott Riggs, who made his Nextel Cup debut here last year. The champion of the series, Kurt Busch, and the prior champ, Matt Kenseth. Jeff Gordon, 2 times a Daytona 500 champion, and Scott Wimmer, who was 3rd last year. A brace of Dodges in row 9, Jamie McMurray, Sterling Marlin. Kyle Busch, younger brother of the series champ, and Bobby Labonte, a past champion. Kenny Wallace in his 9th 500, and Bobby Hamilton Jr. Greg Biffle, who won the July race here a year ago. Jeremy Mayfield, who has a 3rd place finish in this race. Travis Quaffle, a Truck Series champ, and Jeff Green, a Busch Series champion. Carl Edwards graduates from the Truck Series, and Brian Vickers, 2 years ago, the Busch champion. Casey Mears and Kevin Harvick back at row 15. Then veteran Ken Schrader and Mark Martin in his final 500 appearance. In the 17th row, Kyle Petty, fastest of the Dodges in time trials. Joe Nemechek in a backup car. Mike Bliss moves over to the 0 team, and Rusty Wallace in his final 500 appearance. Kasey Kahne with all those runner-up finishes last year, 5 of them, and Dave Blaney. Elliott Sadler, transmission trouble, forces him to the rear alongside Jason Leffler in a new Joe Gibbs ride. Boris Said, the road racing expert, and John Andretti. Finally, Mike Wallace got the final transfer spot on speed to break into this race. The field rolls out, and we will too, and we'll be back for the start of the 47th annual Daytona 500. NASCAR on Fox welcomes you back to the 47th annual Daytona 500. Pace cars lead the field, and Darrell gets a chance to talk to one of the sentimental favorites in today's race.
Mark Martin, this is DW. Buddy, you're sitting out there getting ready to run your last 500. What's going through your mind?
Well, I'm thinking I'm in good shape here. I've got the best team in the business behind me with the Viagra team. Got the best car I've ever driven at Daytona. And I got a bunch of good race cars and drivers behind me, and in front of me. Got the work cut out for me, but we got, we've got what we need to race these guys. So I'm looking forward to today. I think this could be a fun one.
To you, Mark, to you personally, what would this mean?
Golly, Darrell, you know what it means. You've got one of these trophies, and I don't, buddy. It's a big old trophy. That would mean probably the most to me. Just look at that. Look at that trophy on any given day.
You got the horse to do it with, bud. Set up in there and go hard, and we'll watch it.
Okay, Darrell.
Let's have a look at the all-new Chevy Corvette pace car. Looking back at Dale Jarrett and Jimmy Johnson. Here's Matt Yoakum.
Mike, earlier this week, Jeff Gordon told me today he's on a drive for 5, not a 5th Nextel Cup Series championship, but he wants to get owner Rick Hendrick his 5th Daytona 500 victory as a car owner. His team began building this very race car 6.5 months ago. Hundreds of hours have gone into this race car, several trips to the wind tunnel, all in winning this race. This car they hope to leave here to put in Daytona, USA, and leave here also with a lot of momentum going for that 5th championship. But today, it's all about winning the Great American Race. To Jeannie Zelasco.
Oh, yes. How big is this race? Kurt Busch told me it is an honor and a privilege to be the Nextel Cup champion. But he admitted there would be a hole in his career. Definite unfinished business if he walked away without a Daytona 500 victory. He hopes to take care of that unfinished business today with what he told me was one of the best cars he has ever brought to Daytona.
Jeannie, let's talk about momentum. Tony Stewart led nearly half the race here a year ago, but trailed behind Dale Earnhardt Jr. at the start-finish line. He was second. On Thursday, he won one of the qualifying races. Yesterday, he won a Busch Series race here, the first time he's ever done that. Today, he wants to go to victory lane in the Daytona 500 for the first time in the Great American Race. Dick Berger.
Well, today, Rusty Wallace starts his 23rd and final Daytona 500. He retires from driving after this year. He's come close before. In 1999, he led more than half the laps. He's finished as high as 3rd. He races today in a backup car. The primary car demolished on Thursday. day. I talked to Rusty moments ago. He said he has all the confidence in the world that today will be his day, that backup car is good enough for him to finally win the Daytona 500. Mike?
Thanks, Dick. All right, Darrell, we know how much it means to win the Daytona 500 now, but how do you put yourself in a position to win?
Well, first of all, Mike, no driver is going to tell you this is just another race because everybody knows it isn't. And the odds favor some, the gods favor others. How you get yourself in a position is you got to be at this is a long race, 500 miles. You got to be there at the end. You got to make great pit stops, and he's got to make good decisions in the pits.
And you know, in most sports, you can make a mistake at the beginning of the event, the middle of the event, maybe even near the end of the event, and you can still come back, recover, and win the event. But in this race, where these 43 cars are going to be racing at over 190 miles per hour, one mistake by the driver, the crew, or someone else, and you'll be like I was those first 11 years. You'll have to come back 12 months later and try it again.
Fans are invited to participate in the singular virtual crew chief during today's Daytona 500. Stay tuned for details on how to play. Watch for your chance to win your own singular number 31. .500 miles at Daytona, 200 laps of racing. Pit road speed 55 miles an hour. The pace car runs 65. They'll need to stop every 30 to 35 laps.
Pretty important element. We talk about mistakes. A lot of pit stops today for 4 tires of fuel. Those crews have to be on the mark, and that driver has to be on the mark coming on and off pit road.
Darrell, months of planning, massaging, and preparation. It all comes down to this. We're ready to go.
DW, I've been waiting for several months, several weeks. Reach up there, pull them belts tight one more time.
Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, boys.
Didn't take long for things to get 3 wide, did it?
No, it did not. Michael Waltrip in the 15 car, he's been smiling about that race car all week long. And right now, these guys, 36 races, someone would like to get those 5 bonus points toward the championship here on this first lap, or leading that lap.
Jumping out in the middle is how you go from third to no telling where, because it's hard to get that sucker. That's a sucker hole. It feels like you're going to go somewhere there, but early in the race when they're lined up like this, that's probably not the best move.
That someone was Jimmy Johnson. His Lowe's Chevrolet leads the first lap from Dale Jarrett.
You get such a run sometime, you think, gosh, I can pass everybody out here. But you just hit a wall of air and the car just bogs down on you.
Jarrett lines up behind Johnson. Tony Stewart, Home Depot number 20, right there.
Takes about a lap or two for these things to really get up to speed. Takes about 5 or 6 laps for a driver to really start knowing what he's got, what kind of handling package, how good he's going to be.
Look at the run our Bud Polster, though, has at the bottom. Dale Jarrett, that 88 car, he's got him lined up behind him. He wants to get back up there and lead a lap.
Well, this is the best. From the pole, this is the best Dale's done in 2 races. He's fallen back through the field every race he's been up there. Right now, he looks pretty good. Larry's hanging in there.
Johnson's number 48 drops to the low side. Mid-pack, they're still 3 wide.
We have a scoring monitor up here we look at to see positions changed. 43 cars, 39 positions changed on that lap right there.
Now this is when you've got to stay with the pack. You don't want people to get it. You don't want the pack to break away from you. Dale Jarrett.
Jarrett's in trouble.
Yeah, he is. I think he got down on the apron going into turn 3 and really upset his car.
The 88 car, the UPS car, Dale Jarrett.
But the reason this is so dicey right now, it's early in the race, so much turbulence. There's so much wind and air blowing off of these race cars that it'll just suck you into the guy beside you.
Tony Stewart forges to the front. Yesterday, in the Busch Series race, he got tapped and slid across the infield grass in turn 1, popped back up on the racetrack, losing only 6 positions, and gained 16 spots in the last 10 laps to win it. Now let's see what squirreled up Dale Jarrett here.
I know know something did, because he got down on the apron almost and went to the back.
2 wide. 8's got a push here.
Whoa, boy, Dale Jr. just got him bad loose.
That was a little more than a bump draft there.
3 wide.
Steve Burns.
And Mike just heard Dale Jarrett say on the radio, I'm having to lift when I get into the entrance of the turns. That's why you saw what you just did at home.
Yeah, and you can't be doing that at 4 laps into the race. Later on in a run, I can understand it, but that's how bad that car is, I guess.
And it's kicked him back to 30th place right now, but all 43 cars are running right now within 3.5 seconds of each other. There you can see right there. There you see the throttle. If the car's handling good, you'd see it over here at 100% wide open all the way around this racetrack. You can see he has to feather it. He has to play with it because the car's not handling.
And that's going to make for a long day. He's going to have to make a lot of pit stops, work on that car every chance he gets. I know what that feels like. Fast car and can't drive it.
Dale Jarrett in 1 lap plummeted from 3rd to 30th.
But he's done that in 3 other events, Mike. He was on the pole for the Bud Shootout, he was on the pole for the 150, and now he's on the pole today.
Jason Leffler showing us foot cam.
Both feet, working the gas and dragging the brake. That's how you keep from losing momentum, is you've got to drag that brake. He's got quite a bit of pressure with that left foot on the brake.
That's the number 11 FedEx car, the new Joe Gibbs entry for 2005.
You don't lose near as much momentum touching the brake to slow you down as you would lifting off the throttle.
When you let off the throttle, it's like a 4-cylinder. It just won't go again. It takes too long for it to wind back up.
3 cars trying to break away at the front of the field. Stewart, winner 2 years ago, Michael Waltrip, and surprising Scott Riggs in the number 10 Valvoline Chevy in 3rd. He has been strong all through testing and all week here.
My brother was so confident that he had the car to beat today. And he's right there. I mean, he jumped 3 wide on the get-go, but here he is with Tony Stewart. Looks like he's going to be in good shape.
Here's Matt.
DW, he's right on the yellow line where he's been able to run all week. His spotter, Joey Meyer, just told him the aide of Dale Jr. cannot hear his spotter. If he gets there, see if you can just help him out, ride around with him for a while. Michael hasn't said much of the radio. That car is just glued to the bottom.
And that's what you want. You want a car that'll stick to the bottom. It'll go wherever you want to. But the quickest way around here, and that yellow line down on the left side there, is your best friend.
New driver in car 5 this year, Terry Labonte's going to run a partial schedule. Kyle Busch comes out of the Busch Series. He's the new driver, that bright yellow Kellogg's car that just brushed off the wall.
And why is that yellow line your best friend? Because they can't go below it to make a pass. So ride on the yellow line, and that just takes 1 move away from the other guys.
Tony Stewart, Michael Waltrip, Scott Riggs, and Jimmy Johnson in Chevrolets lead the Fords of Matt Kenseth and Kurt Busch.
Nice to have you with us. The Daytona 500 on Fox. Tony Stewart leading Michael Waltrip. Lap 11 with Jeff Hammond, Chris Myers from the Hollywood Hotel. And this, more than any other race, on-track teamwork is pivotal.
Yeah, I think we saw that early on when Michael Waltrip tried to go in the middle, and Dale Earnhardt said, "No, I ain't going out there yet." He kind of hung him out, but Michael was able to get hooked up. Now he runs seconds, but you've got to have a good dance partner if you want to run well.
Earlier, Darrell talked with Mark Martin, a sentimental favorite in the repaired car. Said he thought he had a car capable of winning. He's doing all right.
He's doing all right. He worked his way up to 17th right now, but he's been up and down. But he's been able to at least get in that top 20 and keep things close. And I think that's so important for his confidence as well as the team's early on in this race.
Let's head back upstairs to Mike.
Like a tightly wound watch, the field uncoils and the laps tick away as you watch from our Quaker State aerial coverage. Tony Stewart, Michael Waltrip, Jimmy Johnson. Kurt Busch has moved to 4th, displacing Scott Riggs to 5th, and last year's 3rd place finisher Scott Wimmer in 6th.
Now what you want to watch for, folks, is as these cars run, you'll start to see the front group here looks like start to ease away from everybody else. The reason being, watch them come off of turn 2 and off of turn 4. Guys that have got good handling cars, they will accelerate out of that corner and put some distance between the guy behind them. Guys that don't, that means they're lifting a little bit, pedaling it if you will, and they're going to lose ground in a hurry.
Another thing that will help those top 12 is we see one of those top 12, Jeff Gordon, in the 24 car, move to the high side. If those guys can stay lined up and running a single file the way the draft works here, they'll pull away from that group that's back there causing a lot of turbulence running side by side.
Normally you have three groups here. You got the group up front that handles great, can run wide open all the way around the track. Then you got a middle group that's kind of playing with the throttle and losing ground, and then you got the stragglers at the back.
Mark Martin started 32nd.
Smoke out of the 18 car off at turn 4.
That's big. Bobby Labonte going up, smoke out both tailpipes, caution flag.
That looks terminal. It's coming out both sides of the car, which is where the exhaust pipes are.
What's the old saying, Mike? Where there's smoke,
there's shrapnel. Bobby Labonte. And Joe Gibbs Interstate Chevrolet was way up in the high groove. Mark Martin, Ricky Rudd 21 had just gone by. His teammate Jason Leffler in the 11. When that comes out the tailpipe, there's nothing good going on inside that engine.
Yeah, my old crew chief Jake Elder used to say she just came a wad.
Labonte in his 13th Daytona 500. And we're under the first caution of the day.
And we're about halfway through this first fuel run. We still have 42 cars on the lead lap, which would exclude Bobby Labonte. I would say because of that, a lot of teams need to make their cars better. Pit road will be a very busy place, probably filling up with fuel, 4 tires, and a lot of adjustments for a lot of these teams.
We welcome Office Depot to the NASCAR Nextel Cup family. Small business owners can visit their local Office Depot to find out how their business can be designated official small business of NASCAR and be featured on the '99 Office Depot car. The winner will be announced under the lights at Darlington, May 7th. Jeannie?
Well, a reminder for Jimmy Johnson as he does make his way in, to be advised it's going to be a little difficult getting out. Actually, guys, they're talking about making no adjustments to the car out of the stuff that you might expect. Give him some fuel, give him 4 tires. Jimmy has been saying that the car is actually loose in 1 and 2 when someone is behind him, but it's not bad when he's free. But he is tight in 3 and 4, so they've just decided, as I said, to go with 4 tires and fuel and let the car work its way out. Nick?
Dale Earnhardt Jr. struggled in practice here, but he's got the car much faster. They've done some work with the engine, and Junior's happy with the car. Steve?
Big Tony Stewart says he's just a little snug in traffic. 4 tires and a small air pressure adjustment. Matt?
This will be a 4-tire change for Michael Waltrip. He entered pit road in the 2nd position. He said he's lost grip on both ends of the race car. It's tight and loose. They really wanted to fix the loose part. He felt like that would really help him, although the car is very strong.
Jeremy Mayfield's team may have rolled the dice on 2 tires. It looked like almost everyone else got 4.
See a lot of adjustments being made on Dale Jarrett's car, the UPS car. Remember, our Bud pole sitter started in the 1st position. He had almost went to the complete back of the field. I think Scott Wimmer in the 22 actually won the battle. Quite sure he probably just changed right side tires.
There's Wimmer's Cat Dodge, number 22. Bobby Hamilton Jr. Jimmy Johnson 3rd off pit road. We're under caution in the Daytona 500 on Fox.
The Daytona 500 on Fox is brought to you by Visa, proud sponsor of NASCAR. By new Tylenol Extra Strength Rapid Release Gels. Team Tylenol, think fast. By Ford, winner of back-to-back NASCAR Nextel Cup Championships. And by Nextel. Go to foxsports.com to find out how you can be the Nextel Fan of the Week. Couple 100,000 fans in attendance, armed forces watching across the globe, and millions of viewers everywhere. Moments ago, we saw Kyle Petty stay out, pick up some bonus points, right? He decided not to pit.
Well, he was already basically at the end of the pack anyway, so probably a pretty smart move on him. No reason to go in on pit road and get caught up as we see him come down pit road. He gets some bonus points, and more importantly, he gets himself a little bit of television time. And I think this is a good move right now as we see Kevin Harvick also making a 2nd pit stop right there to kind of tune on his car a little bit. But
will Kevin Harvick have any friends when it comes to drafting after what we saw during the Gatorade duel on Thursday?
I think he'll find some friends because I think he's probably got a pretty good race car, and he will find guys that will use him to at least get to the front, and they'll kick him off to the side as quick as they can.
Under our first caution of the day, let's go back upstairs to Mike, Darrell, and Larry.
See Jimmy Johnson right here. Now, a lot of cars elected to change just 2 right side tires. A little surprised because I talked to Chad Knaus, his crew chief, this morning, and he said, you know, I'm thinking 4 tires every time we come to pit road. But another thing that helped these guys, Chad Knaus, his crew chief, these guys are able to pick their pit selection by how they qualify. And this would be like the 48 car. He had an opening in front of him. When you have 41 cars on pit road at one time, basically it's very easy to get blocked in when you try to pull out. And he had an opening here, so that helped speed up their pit road time.
Boy, one thing I noticed looking at that camera shot of him in the car there, that car is so neutral. He's not having to look. Normally, you got to hold it up in the racetrack. He's just kind of floating along there. That car is really neutral.
Watch the 1 and the 11 trying to squeeze out. Whoa.
Well, you don't want to damage that right front fender. I tell you, that'll just kill your car.
Truex in the 1, Leffler in the 11. Green flag, and Scott Wimmer, who took 2 tires, is out in front. Bill Davis won the Daytona 500 with Ward Burton a couple of years back. Ward rideless at the start of this season and hoping to hook on with a good team as soon as an opening permits. But Wimmer is out front. The 01 of Joe Nemechek is scored 1 lap down right behind Wimmer.
Now, if you got a good race car, you want this thing to just go green, stay green, green, green. If you got a car like Dale Jarrett, needs some service and some work done on it, you'd like to see a caution about every 20 laps so you can get in the pits and work on it.
Mark Martin started 32nd. He is up to 16th in his final 500. Rusty Wallace, also in his last Daytona 500, runs in 32nd.
And the 01 car, Joe Nemechek, I wondered how he got a lap down. He pitted out of his pit box and got a 1-lap penalty.
Michael Waltrip in the 15 car, he's gathered a little group on the high side with Kurt Busch in the 97, Scott Riggs in the 10, and they're making a run on that group on the high side.
It looks like that Tony and Michael got a little something going. Michael sat there behind Tony earlier, Tony Stewart in the 20 car, and Michael followed Tony. Now it looks like they reversed roles.
That's Mike Skinner in the 23, a former pole sitter for the 500. But it looks like it's that outside lane that's moving, so Wimmer goes up top to pick them up.
Wimmer finished 3rd here last year in the Daytona 500. That car's always been good here at Daytona.
But Michael Waltrip in the 15, Tony Stewart in the 20 decided to go up to the high side, and just before turning off into turn 3, Tony gave Michael quite a shot to catapult him off into turn 3.
Wimmer closed the door, he got in behind Michael and left Tony hanging.
See our Fox tracks with Jeff Gordon in the 24 car. We talked about racing this close at 190, 191 miles per hour. All day long, you'll hear us talking about 3 wide, 4 wide. The racetrack's plenty wide enough for that, but we'll get excited because you know what? That's where you can get in trouble and cause that big wreck if you make one mistake as a driver.
That, and they got this mindset of bump drafting, and they're doing it everywhere around the racetrack.
Side by side, the 48 of Johnson, the 97 of Kurt Busch, right together, right how they finished up last season, Jeannie.
Well, Larry Mack, you will be happy to know that I went up to Chad Knaus, the crew chief for the 48 car of Jimmy Johnson, and asked him, okay, buddy, why did you go from 4 tires to 2 tires as originally planned when Jimmy was making his way to the pits? He said, why not? And I said, come on, you told me to talk to you this morning. You told me, you told Larry Mack you'd go with 4. He said, look, I'm trying to keep Larry Mack on his toes. They're just experimenting for later in the race, Matt.
Both Bill Davis racing cars took on 2 tires that last stop for track position. Both were on the tight side. Both raised the track bar because 2 tires would normally tighten you up more. As you can see, Wimmer on the bottom still running in 2nd. Skinner with new Argent Mortgage colors, hoping to put together maybe a 12 to 15 race deal with this team. But Wimmer starting to lose the 48 and the 20.
And troubles continue for the pole sitter, Dale Jarrett. He was extremely tight. All kinds of changes. Rubber in the right rear spring. They made a wedge adjustment. But perhaps the biggest adjustment was he could not see his pit sign board. It's brown UPS, so they added orange fluorescent tape to that pit sign board. He almost missed it. He got back on the racetrack, as there you see his pit board. He almost missed his pit board. He told the guys seconds ago, they're all driving past me. Dick Berggren.
Well, Earnhardt Jr. has had problems with his radio. The crew needs to hear the driver, so the driver can tell the crew how the car is behaving so they can make proper adjustments during pit stops. Crew couldn't hear Jr., so they have changed channels. They're now on the backup channel, and everybody can hear everybody just fine.
We've talked about teammates hooking up. Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, there on the inside, have found each other and now can try to work together to get to the front.
That's what teammates are all about. The other thing is, you heard them talking about Junior couldn't hear, they can't hear Junior. That's not so bad. The main thing is if he can hear that spotter and he can hear the crew chief. He doesn't necessarily have to be able to talk to them as long as he can hear them.
Yeah, the crew chief is important to these drivers. They're like the head coach. But that spotter up here, it's his eyes, his senses. He's like the defensive and offensive coordinator all in one.
Yeah, a lot of times you don't really want to hear what the driver has to say.
I've been there, done that.
Time for our singular virtual crew chief question. To vote, text the word crew to 191 on your singular wireless phone or go to foxsports.com. You'll be entered to win your own singular number 31. What's more important today, handling or horsepower?
I think you could ask Dale Jarrett. He could answer that pretty easily.
Answer, both. 24 laps complete of 200. Michael Waltrip, past champion of the Daytona 500, leading Tony Stewart and Kurt Busch. Calamity in turn 4. You see it unfolding as Ricky Rudd and Boris Said and the number 4 of Mike Wallace have crashed. I think Wallace got the worst of it. His Lucas Oil car is already in the garage. Ricky Rudd for the Wood brothers. There is Kyle Busch who is involved.
This is what we were talking about just a little while ago. One mistake by one driver, that tight of a pack, speeds over 190 miles per hour. One mistake, 6, 7, 8 cars involved.
The Wood brothers of Stewart, Virginia, have won this race with A.J. Foyt. They won it with Cale Yarborough, Tiny Lund. They won't win it today. Right side of your screen.
I think I saw a tire. It looked like a rubber came off of the left rear of Ricky Rudd's car, maybe, or somebody's car. I can't tell for sure which one.
Looks like he definitely got in trouble. Looks like he almost corrected it, Darrell, and then it shot back up the racetrack, right in the middle of the racetrack, and that's where everyone else got involved.
I think, Larry, I glimpsed the casing of the tire coming off. You see down at the bottom down there. There it goes. See it rolling off into the off onto the apron.
I talked to Goodyear's Billy Hodges this morning, and he said the tire problems of last week were all taken care of. They were confident of a good day.
Well, now, after a restart, a few laps, you always drop the air pressure a little bit.
Good job, baby.
Great call there, guys. You drop the air pressure.
Full view of that one, didn't you, Bubba? Check it up. Yeah, buddy. That's the state of the bottom. Come on, come on. Good job, Herman. Watch him. Watch him. Watch him. Come on, yeah. So watch the grass. Watch the grass.
That was Kenny Wallace and his spotter. Well, we're under caution. That means pit stops.
And we've only ran like 11 laps, but I think everybody's on pit road. More tires, more adjustments, Dick.
Over the course of the winter, changed pit crews with his teammate Michael Waltrip, as well as most of the cars in this stable. Matt.
A two-tire change for Michael Waltrip. He said that the car was just way too loose up on the high side, especially in the middle of 3 and 4. That's why they went with the 2 tires and a track bar adjustment to try to tighten that race car up so he can get back down on the bottom near that yellow line.
Kevin Harvick is in trouble on pit road. He coasted in, and are they taping that car or trying to get the hood open?
Looks like they're doing some repair work on the front of that car. He had fallen backwards by quite a bit.
I have to push it back and then I'll take off.
Working on Kyle Busch's car, Mike Wallace has already gone to the garage after this one in turn 4.
Fox, glad to have you along for the Daytona 500. Let's take a look at the all-new Chevy Corvette pace car. And Ricky Rudd in his 28th Daytona 500. He's never won, involved in what is at least a 6-car crash, the first crash of the day.
Yeah, as we said earlier, the left rear tread on the left rear tire came off, and the car went around, went up and hit the 99 car and collected the 4 of Mike Wallace, along with what looks like Boris said, several other drivers trying to avoid the accident. There was nothing that Ricky could do. I mean, it was just totally out of his control. Whenever the tire went down, it just turned him right up into the 99 car.
Kyle Busch, a 19-year-old involved in this. Also, Boris said at his first Daytona 500 at age 42, caught up in it as well.
And we're listening to the spotter and the in-car camera on the 11 car, Jason Lever, because he said, man, good job, baby. I mean, he really did a good job right there, not panicking.
Michael Waltrip leading Tony Stewart, and it's interesting in the drivers meeting, which they all gather right before the race here. The Daytona 500 usually questions with David Hooch, the race director. There were no questions from the drivers. He just cautioned everybody, be respectful from the first lap to the 200.
Yeah, right now, like I say, this is nothing that Ricky Rudd could have done about this. He lost that left rear tire, went up, hit the side of Carl Edwards, and up in front of the 4 car as well as the 5 car of Kyle Busch, and around they went.
Under our second caution of the Daytona 500, let's check in with Steve Byrne.
And Chris, when Tony Stewart came to pit road, he had radioed his crew chief Greg Zipadelli. He said it's just a tick tight. So interesting strategy. They took just 2 tires for Tony Stewart. He told his crew, good job, boys. Matt?
Confusion here between the 29 of Kevin Harvick and the 9 of Kasey Kahne. They thought the 9 of Kahne was pulling out. Harvick stopped. It was kind of like one of those things in a parking lot at a grocery store. Finally, Harvick's in. The problem he has with the grill, the piece of tape they're going to try to affix with safety wire. It keeps coming up, Mike, like it's a wicker bill, causing drag.
Thanks, Matt. 29 laps complete. Second caution of the day, Darrell.
One of the adjustments that the crews use all the time, it's their best tool, is air pressure. More than likely, that was low air in that left rear tire that pulled that thread off the casing like that.
Because it had not been that long since they made a pit stop. Now, we've been talking about pit selection and winning the battle off pit road. Even though Michael Waltrip elected to only change 2 tires, a lot like Paul Menard in the Busch Series race yesterday, and again, you pick your pit by how you qualify. This is the pit outline right here, and Michael Waltrip was right here. Once the pit stop was completed, all he had to do is move that short a distance to basically win the battle off pit road, and it paid off that time.
Ricky Rudd completes a stop. His battered car will go back on track as we get ready to go green. 5 different leaders of this race so far. Tony Stewart, Michael Waltrip, Scott Wimmer, Jimmy Johnson, and Kyle Petty stayed out to lead a lap under caution before making a stop.
Usually the start of these races, 500 miles, everybody's kind of antsy and everybody's kind of pushing and shoving. Have a lot of cautions early on, then we'll get down to some green flag racing.
We need to mention Joe Nemechek in the 01 car. He got back on the lead lap. He received the free pass, which is a thing that NASCAR does. Once they freeze the field under caution, whoever's the closest car to the leader a lap down, he gets back on the lead lap when a caution comes out.
30 laps, 75 miles complete. You got your high-def TV, you got your surround sound Dolby. Just crank it up.
All right.
Martin started 32nd in a car he said was good enough to win the 500 even after he wrecked it Thursday. They said, don't trot out the backup car, fix this one. They did. He is up to 6th place.
Yeah, he and Sterling Marlin are hooked up pretty well there. He gave Sterling a good shot going into 3. He says, I got a bumper and I'm not afraid to use it.
Steve?
Hey, an update on Mark Martin, guys. I talked to his crew chief, Pat Bryson, this morning. They were very worried about all the body damage to that car, but that's the car Mark wanted to race. They had 2 body fabricators down from the shop in Mooresville, North Carolina. They worked as hard as they could to get that thing right. Pat Bryson said the nose has to be right or we're in trouble. Well, those fabricators have done the job so far.
And it can go either way. You know, they can fix the car and you can say, man, that's what I needed. Or you can hear the crew chief say, well, you know, that's what you wanted, old buddy.
And of course, NASCAR would not let them take the car out of the garage, and they have set hours that the garage is open and closed. But the biggest thing I think that Pat Trice and Mark Martin, the statement they made fixing this car, we're in championship form this year.
I got a close look at it down on the grid, and it looks a lot better from 20 feet away than it does from 2, but it'll do the job. The other sentimental favorite, Rusty Wallace, in his last 500, Dick Berggren.
And during an earlier pit stop, Mike, one of the crew members accidentally knocked off the left side mirror from Rusty Wallace's car. On that more recent pit stop, a crew member went at it, came up with a hose clamp situation, and got a new side mirror on the car. Matty?
Half a lap ago, Michael Waltrip keyed his mic and said, ask Tony if he needs me to do anything different, I will. They talked to Tony's spotter, relayed the message. Tony said, stay right where you are. This is perfect for me.
That's what you want to hear. That's a little co-opetition going on there.
You see Casey Mears in the 41 car there. He was stuck in the middle. He was trying to get hooked up. We've been talking about teammates working together. He was working to get hooked up, as we see Dale Earnhardt Jr. a little bump draft here on Jeff Burton. But he was trying to get hooked up with Jamie McMurray and Sterling Marlin in the 42 and the 40 car, his teammates, but it just didn't work out there coming off the last corner.
Co-opetition, Darrell, making new and maybe temporary friends.
working together for the betterment of somebody.
You know, we look at Jeff Burton, the 31 car there. We were talking about Dale Jarrett earlier, that he wished he had a car that just handled a little bit. I talked to Jeff Burton this morning. He said, Larry, my car is not fast, but it handles good. As we see Matt Kenseth in the 17 car, he's in trouble, it looks like.
Yeah, he almost stopped going into turn number 3.
Right side.
He has a tire down.
Right side tires.
Well, it's shaking so bad I can't believe it, but just look at the right first.
Uh-oh, tailpipe smoke or tire smoke?
I think that's tires.
They broke the flywheel.
I believe that's coming out the exhaust.
It's something else, yep.
Shaking is
there's
not the tire.
the telltale sign. They're going to go under the hood, Matt Kenseth, the 17 car.
So 2 pre-race favorites in early trouble. Bobby Labonte and the 2003 Nextel Cup champion Matt Kenseth is being pushed behind the wall. Michael Waltrip, Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon, 3 fast Chevys out front.
At least 6 cars involved in that wreck. Not exactly a big one, but one just to let everybody know where we stand.
It looks like right now a 0-0. Kenny Wallace may be coming to pit road. We've already seen early on a couple guys have some tire issues, and he may have a flat on that car also.
Michael Waltrip has led since lap 20. We're on lap 40. Dale Jarrett on the pole, dropping back after starting the race. As we get a look here, there are more Chevys in this race, Jeff, than any other manufacturer. 20 in the field, 14 Dodge, 9 Fords, and right now Chevy leading the way in the top 3.
Yeah, but you got a lot of guys right now trying to get hooked up and work together as far as the Fords are concerned, so it's still a long ways to go.
Problem for Ford and Matt Kenseth. Let's check in on that with Jeannie Zalasko.
Well, thank you, Chris. Matt, you have said it all the speed weeks you've been down here. This is the best car you ever brought to Daytona. What the heck are you doing in the garage?
We just broke a connecting rod and engine, so it's very disappointing. We blew up before qualifying. and broke a piston or something, and now it broke again. So we have a great engine program, but this is definitely a disappointing way to start the season. It's the best car I've ever had down here by far. I felt like we could have really been a contender today. We had a problem on the pit stop and got ourselves behind, but we still have plenty of time to get caught back up, and disappointing way to start the season.
All right, better looking Fontana. Matt?
Even in a backup car, Kevin Harvick thought he had a great shot to win today. The repairs to the grill with a piece of tape and the safety wire did not hold. The tape is flipped up. Now the crew is trying to build a piece of aluminum that will fit nicely aerodynamically in that grill. Crew chief Todd Berry has instructed the guys, get this piece of metal ready for their next pit stop. Hopefully it'll be a yellow so they have time to fix it. Right now, Kevin Harvick is trying to hold on to the draft.
The reason they want to run that tape on that front end opening is the more you can tape that up without overheating the oil and the water, it aerodynamically really helps the car go through the air, and they're trying to keep as much of that blocked up as they can.
Kyle Busch has gone to the garage, joining Kenseth, Mike Wallace, Bobby Labonte.
Kenny Wallace went to the garage too, Mike, in the Waring's Dream Machine.
Guys, I'm pretty impressed with that 48 car, Jimmy Johnson. It was not that many laps ago. He was back there running with Mark Martin in the 6 car. He drove off by himself and left Mark Martin and caught this top 5. You see him behind Scott Riggs in the 10 car here.
Mark Martin leads the second group of cars. And Mark, I can't believe how calm he sounds out there at 190 miles an hour. Listen.
Got the 11 car out there wanting to work with you a little bit, Mark. He was stayed behind you for quite a bit there, and he was pretty fast behind you.
Praise him. Praise him. He's done a great job. I really appreciate it. It worked wonderful. If we keep everybody else from putting us 3 wide, we'll be good.
And so how the driver goes is how the team goes. If the driver's calm and the driver's not excited about anything, it's such a big confidence booster to the crew, because they know that he's sitting out there, doesn't have any problems. He's really happy.
Mark's number 6 in 7th place, and he has brought the second group of 4 cars right up to the first. It's now a 10-car lead draft. In that mix, Mike Skinner, first of our Dodge front runners, in 8th, and the Rocket Ryan Newman in 9th. Sterling Marlin 11th place, best of the Dodges right now.
And this is a good run for these Dodges because they have the new Charger. They replaced it with from the Intrepid, and they built this car with downforce. It helps the car stick to the racetrack. They somewhat paid the penalty last week when you need a good slick car to qualify, but I think as this racetrack really gets slick, the car starts sliding around, it looks like they're going to race good. Pretty impressed with Mike Skinner because they were not even going to race down here based on how their test was about a month ago, but they've come to life.
Jimmy Johnson, the 48, the 10 of Scott Riggs side by side as they fight for 5th place.
Why Mark likes his car, Mike, is because it gets better and better in the long run. Maybe not all that fast on the starts, but it looks like that's the kind of race car that you want for 500 miles.
3 Wallace brothers started this race. 2 of them are in the garage. Jeannie?
Yes, and I've caught up with Kenny, and sometimes we have dreams and sometimes we have nightmares. What happened, sir?
Well, I want to thank Michael Waltrip and Aaron's. You know, I mean, it was a great day. Car was running great, and no warning at all. I guess something happened in the motor.
Yeah, you avoided the crash?
I avoided the crash. You know, there were a couple things that could have went either way this whole week, but, you know, all I can tell you is everything was going great. It was a real good day, and it looked like everything had finally settled out. I don't know what happened to Ricky there, but we avoided that big wreck, and man, it was running, you know, handling really good. That's what I was excited about, and no warning at all. We just felt like it dropped a valve or something. But, you know, DEI builds great motors, and we put quite a few laps on this one because it was the motor we ran in the 120 or 150.
Well, if there is an upside, sir, you can go back and root your brother on to try to win the Daytona 500.
Yes, exactly. This is the agony of defeat, but I'm thrilled to be here.
All right, thank you.
These engines don't turn a lot of RPM, about 7,000. They'll turn close to 10 next week in California. But they go through what engine builders call harmonics. And there's a certain RPM range where that engine is not happy. And it gets a lot of vibrations in it. You get it caught in that RPM range very long, it can break something.
And the reason they don't turn them as many here at Daytona as they will next week at Fontana, they have that carburetor restrictor plate that takes about half the horsepower out of the motor.
There are your 3 lead cars in the Daytona 500, 50 laps, 125 miles in the books. Michael Waltrip, two-time winner, leading the series champion Kurt Busch, and yesterday's Busch Series winner Tony Stewart, who leads the Koch family of drivers right now. Stewart has won everything in open wheel, closed wheel racing, but the Indy 500 and the Daytona 500, and the win he had yesterday, you should have seen it.
It was a thing of beauty. That's one of the best saves I've seen in years. I mean, to get down in the grass, come back up on the racetrack and keep on going, that was a lot of car control.
And he only went from first to seventh despite that slide in the grass, and then came back from 17th to win it in the last 10 laps.
It just seemed like it motivated him.
One of the most surprising stories early in this race is Scott Riggs. He's in only his second Daytona 500 in that white number 10 car, in 5th place. Finished a disappointing 34th last February, but he's been with the leaders all day, Steve.
And Mike, he really struggled last year as a rookie. He finished 29th in points. The team sees a lot of potential in this young driver, but he's hard on himself. He and his wife took their young son, Lane, he's 3 years old, to SeaWorld on Monday, and he said it did as much for him as it did for his son. It helped him relax and focus for this race, Dick Berggren.
Well, the other surprise is Dale Earnhardt. He started in 5th spot. He's all the way back to 16th. Pete Rondo is his new crew chief. What's going on?
Well, he said the car was fine. He got caught in a few bad spots and didn't push the issue. I think he's going to be okay. I think you might see him start the rumble here in a little bit.
Okay, Pete making his first start in a points race in the Nextel Cup Series with Dale Earnhardt Jr.
And Dick, that's exactly what he basically did for most of the race yesterday in the Busch Series race. Let the race wind down. We know we have a lot of pit stops. We have a long way to go. Just let things sort out just a little bit.
When you've got a good race car and you know you got a good team, you don't have to panic. You can just kind of ride along and enjoy the scenery.
Time for the singular virtual crew chief question. Will Dale Earnhardt Incorporated win its 4th Daytona 500 in 5 years? Text the word crew to 191 on your singular wireless phone, or go to foxsports.com. You'll also be entered to win your own singular number 31 car. Jeff Gordon has been trying everything he knows to get to the front of the pack, and he may have found a way.
And one thing these guys would like to do, they would like to get somewhat single file, because the thing about it, we're only about 5 to 8 laps away from what would be a green flag pit stop. And remember, they're out there running over 190 miles per hour. Pit road speed is 55 miles per hour, and you need to be single file. You don't want to cost yourself a bunch of time by getting all gathered up coming on the pit road and maybe even get in a problem.
Jeff Gordon of the DuPont number 24, two-time 500 winner, 4-time Cup champion. He is fighting his way up to 3rd as the deal-making begins up and down pit road. You're watching the Daytona 500 on Fox.
It's been good stuff so far for Michael Waltrip leading Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson running 3rd, Ryan Newman, who battled the flu, along with Mark Martin, who's run rather well. Deals are being made right now, Jeff Hammond.
It's time right now for a
Let's check in with Matt Yoka. Matt?
Hey, Jay Guarneri, a crew member on Michael Waltrip's team, ran from pit stall 1 all the way down to pit stall 20, where Tony Stewart is pitting. Talked to Greg Zipadelli and Scott Deal. They were looking at pitting around lap 62. They worked so well together. And remember, the 15 team used to be Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s team with Tony Eury Jr. Those guys worked well together with the 20 team last year. And they're looking at pitting again.
Coming in, Sterling Marlin, Rusty Wallace, Dave Blaney, and Jason Leffler. Brian Vickers was in a lap ago. They are joined by Kyle Petty, Jeff Green, Kasey Kahne, and Elliott Sadler on pit road.
And I think we need to explain why these guys want to pit in groups. Why do they want to come on there when it would be much less congested by yourself? The way the draft works here, if you can pit together with a small group, 8, 10, 12 cars, when you leave pit road, you get group back up, you're going to run faster as a group, probably 2 seconds faster than you would if you were by yourself.
Now, more than half of the Dodges came in that lap. Do they not get quite as good gas mileage as the Chevys or Fords?
They are known not to get near as good as mileage.
I think Michael started on pit road, and I'm not so sure that they didn't get some kind of a transmission from the 24 group that maybe they were going to stay out another lap.
Mayfield's in along with Nemechek, pole sitter Dale Jarrett,
Coming this lap.
John Andretti, Carl Edwards.
With us. 24, 48, 12 are the first three behind you.
Casey Mears is in, Hamilton, and Boris said.
And we've been talking about this, Darrell. This is such a challenge for these drivers. You've been out there for 35 laps at over 190 miles per hour. You want to get as much as you can get on the pit road, but you have to be to pit road speed 55 miles per hour at the entrance.
Pit road speed timed electronically rather than by stopwatch as in past years. So by the time they get to those cones, they've got to be wound down. And here come most of the leaders.
Looks like about 12, 14, 15 cars in the lead 2 packs.
Jeannie?
Well, the 97 of Kurt Busch, he has been safe for quite a few laps, and he can't keep it on the bottom. They're going to make a track bar adjustment, air pressure adjustments as well, try to free the car up, guys.
Dale Jr. got tipped into his pit stall, but it's legal. Only the right rear tire is outside the stall. So, Dick, it's a legal stop, but it's not pretty.
It's not pretty, but the pretty part of it was, Mike, that he had a chance to hit several of his crew members. And even though these guys are working with Junior for the first time today, they jumped over the hood of the car. Junior hit nobody, and that's most important. Nobody got hurt.
But he ended up having to back the car up, and you see right here, he's about to lose the pack that he pitted with that's leaving pit road. A lot of costly time. He's probably going to go about a half a lap down because of that mistake.
Here's Matt.
Great stop, Mike, by the 15 team for Michael Waltrip. His car just slightly on the tight side. No chassis adjustment, just air pressure. The 24 car, Jeff Gordon, very solid stop by the 24 crew. Gordon said his car started on the loose side, meaning the back end wanted to come around, and then it started to slowly progress to the tight side as the fuel load burned off. No major adjustment for Gordon as well.
But the speeding police have a couple of victims. Sterling Marlin, Dave Blaney, Elliott Sadler, and Mark Martin, Kurt Busch, and Jimmy Johnson have all been nicked for speeding on pit road.
This pit stop right here, these guys have practiced ever since the end of the last year, and it's a good feeling when you can beat people off pit road, and that pit stop feels like it flows with harmony.
Yeah, he and Jeff Gordon were on top of each other going out onto the racetrack, but the cooler heads prevailed. Michael let Jeff go.
But for these drivers who got nicked for speeding on pit road by the electronic timing system, it's a drive-through penalty at pit road speed. So they have to come down pit lane at 55 miles an hour while everybody else is out there doing a $1.85.
No cheeseburger either.
Think about everyone has been to pit road except right now the leader of the race, Scott Wimmer, in the 22 car.
Comes Jimmy Johnson. He's coming in.
And Wimmer was in the last lap. So here's Johnson along with Kurt Busch, 2 of those who were penalized for being too fast either entering or leaving the pits. The pit road speed limit is a safety rule, 55 miles an hour, to try to keep it safe for those over-the-wall crews.
These guys have had the 150s and the Bud Shootout to work on pit road speed because they all knew it's electronically timed. I think they've been giving them a break, but I bet you this morning they were all told, you got to live by the rule today, boys.
Darrell, the only good thing about the 48 having to make the pass through, he will have a friend with him, Kurt Busch, in the 97, and they'll be able to hopefully stay together.
So after the first round of green flag pit stops today, 64 laps are completed. Jeff Gordon the leader, Tony Stewart and Michael Waltrip, who led before pit stops, they got a good stop. They're third. Ryan Newman fourth as the leading Dodge. Jeff Burton Chevrolet rounds out the top 5.
And we'd like to welcome the 11 car, the FedEx car, to the NASCAR family. Remember, every day is race day at FedEx. Jason Leffler in the 15th spot, hanging in there. We've had 6 leaders with 7 lead changes. Jeff Gordon on top for now. Dale Earnhardt Jr. Had some problems moments ago. Remember, he has a new crew chief and a new pit crew, but Jeff, it wasn't the crew's fault when he got bumped going into the pits at about 55 miles per hour. Jeff Burton right behind him.
No, Jeff Burton right there. All of a sudden, Dale Jr. comes basically across Burton's nose, that bright orange car right there. He gives him a little love tap, and around he goes. But the crew did an outstanding job. Watch right here. They come off the wall. They see the problem. They react, and they continue on with their jobs. I mean, the jack man was caught on the wrong side, but otherwise, they did a great job just getting him out of the pit.
And we're riding with the onboard camera. This is how it looks from Junior's point of view.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened right there. He came from the outside lane and the 31 car, Burton, was on the inside lane, and they made contact.
Right now you have Tony Stewart up behind Jeff Gordon, followed by Michael Waltrip, Ryan Newman, and Jeff Earnhardt. Rusty Wallace trying to win that elusive Daytona 500 in his last ride, up to 6th currently. Let's rejoin Darrell, Larry, and Mike.
You know, in the contact with Burton and Dale Jr., Jeff Burton wasn't supposed to be down underneath Dale Jr. like that. He's supposed to stay out until he gets to his pit box and then turn in. He was trying to get under Jr.
But Burton came out of the pits in 5th. Ryan Newman, the number 12, is 4th, the last car in that lead draft. Jeff Gordon, 2-time winner of this race. Tony Stewart, who has yet to win it. Michael Waltrip, a 2-time winner. And Ryan Newman, who wins the pole, an incredible 1 out of every 5 times they run for the pole. The Rocket is fastest.
I just got a good feeling about him this year. I tell you, he's been so fast. That car is so good. I think he's matured as a driver. I think they're thinking big picture. I think he's going to have a great year.
Here's Steve to update some pit stops for us.
Yeah, Mike, Tony Stewart on his previous pit stop, he took just 2 tires. This time, they put on 4 because the condition that he described as tight had gotten a little bit worse. They had a great pit stop, and the crew complimented Tony back because he got on and off pit road very well. Meanwhile, Scott Riggs really needed that pit stop. They took 4 tires, made an adjustment to the track bar. Riggs said they had been going into a 4-wheel slide. Dick Berggren.
Over the course of the winter, many of the crews jumped teams, went from one team to another. Not so with Rusty Wallace' group. They all stuck together. They believed in their driver. And when I walked into his pit, this is what every one of them showed me. A 12.9 stop. And that is what has put Rusty in the top 10. He started way in the back of the pack with a backup car.
And Dick, that was one of the things that had Rusty pumped up. At the beginning of last year, they had so many problems with pit crews. They kept changing people, moving people around, and about halfway through the season, they finally got a group they felt good about, and he said they were consistently, the end of last year, kicking off those 12, 13-second stops.
And that just proves, Larry, just like you know now, you got to have it all. Got to have a great driver, got to have a good car, but you got to have a good pit crew to go with all that to complement everything.
And if you're one of those drivers who got nicked for speeding on pit road under green, you got to have a caution flag to get caught back up here. Some of those were Jimmy Johnson, Kurt Busch, Mark Martin, 2-time winner of this race, Sterling Marlin, among those that got caught for speeding in the pit lane. 55 miles an hour is the speed. We're told there's no tolerance on that.
Yeah, Johnson and company is losing about 4 or 5 tenths a lap to these first 4 up here.
Yeah, right now they're about 31 seconds behind the leaders. And remember, it takes about 48 seconds to get around this racetrack. They're trying to get a little group together right now. Jimmy Johnson in the 48, Kurt Busch in the 97, his teammate Mark Martin in 6, and Dave Blaney, all pit road speeding offenders. They've kind of latched up together, but they've got a long way to go. Like Mike said, I think it's going to take that caution to catch them up.
And we use the start-finish line as our point of reference. So when I'm Jimmy Johnson, my crew is saying the leader is at the line now, and it's a sick feeling that every time he tells you that, they're getting a little bit closer.
Jeannie?
Fenders, they are definitely in cahoots. The 48 of Jimmy Johnson contacting the 97 of Kurt Busch, trying to get him to slow up a little bit. The thought process is to wait for the 6, and then at some point the 3 of them will try to make a move.
And they have added Dave Blaney, the black car, the 3rd Richard Childress car, to that trio to try to work back up on the leaders and get cycled back with everyone who got on and off pit road without breaking the law.
Well, you know what they say, misery loves company, and that's definitely true in this race.
And Darrell, I almost get a feeling that our 4 leaders right here, starting with Jeff Gordon in the 24 all the way back through Ryan Newman in the 12, they're pretty content to run single file right there, because we've been talking all during the broadcast, when you're single file with 4 cars, that's the quickest lap times you're going to turn, and they'd love to stay that way to continue to put distance on that group led by Jeff Burton in the 31.
Oh yeah, that's the conversation. Stay in line. You use your hand signals. You line up, stay in line. You tell the spotter to tell those guys to stay in line and get out of here.
Jeff Burton in the 31 leading this pack. This is 5th place on back. This is the second group of cars with the 1 of Martin Truex, the Busch champion, the 10 of Scott Riggs in 7th, the 42 of Jamie McMurray, the 23 of Mike Skinner, and Joe Nemechek, who earlier got the free pass to get back on the lead lap. Now he's running in that top 10. 76 laps complete in the Great American Race. You're watching the Daytona 500 on Fox.
Fox Sports, glad to have you along with us from the Daytona 500. This is a Visa race break from the Great American Race. Dale Jarrett started on the pole and quickly fell to the back. Dale Earnhardt Jr. with a little hello bump. How are you? Knocking the 88 car and Jarrett back. Bobby Labonte in the 18 car gives racing some engine problems, smoking, and out of the race early. Meanwhile, out of turn 4, Ricky Rudd. It is 28th Daytona 500 in the 21 car. Spinning, circling because of a tire problem. Elliott Sadler, Morissette, Mike Wallace, Kyle Busch, all involved, 6 cars in all. And Matt Kenseth, former points champ, a connecting rod problem. Said he had his best Daytona car ever, but he's out of this race. Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the pits with Jeff Burton nudging him from behind. Cost him. His crew had to react quickly. Dropped Jr. back to 16th at the time. And moments ago, Ryan Newman in the 12 car running 3rd. Remember, he has the engineering degree. Doesn't help you there, up against the wall in turn 4.
Yeah, coming off that corner right there, it looked like Ryan decided to go to the outside up there, and Michael didn't realize he was there. Next thing you know, there was contact made. You can see he starts to move up off the 4 right here on the high side of Michael. All of a sudden, Michael closes the door on him into the wall.
81 laps through. Gordon leading Stewart, and Newman at just a different angle. He's going about, what, 180, 90 miles an hour?
185, 180 miles an hour off that corner right there. I'm sure it got his attention, but Michael let him get back there in line, and they're trying to line back up and keep going. Waltrip
up to 3rd. Ryan Newman drops down to 4th from the Hollywood Hotel, continuing this Visa race break. Joe Nemechek, a guy who was so hot and bothered on Thursday after the Harvick incident with Jimmy Johnson in a backup car, has worked his way back up toward the front. Only 3 times in Daytona 500 history has a driver won with a backup car.
No, right now they've made a really good adjustment so far on this car, and they've been working their way back toward the front. He's all the way back up to 11th right now. But another guy that we talked about early on, Dale Jarrett. It looked like he was going to be in trouble early on. And again, this team has made a lot of work on this race car, and they've got him back up to the 15th position. So good rebound by him.
6 drivers in their first Daytona 500 ever, including Martin Truex Jr., the Busch champion of last year. He started 10th. Let's check in on him. He's up to 6th currently with Matt Yoder.
Chris, he is having a very impressive run. He is the 2nd car in the 2nd pack. Bono Mannion was talking to Martin on the radio, saying, your pack is the slower pack. We're going to talk to the spotter on the 31 and see maybe if we should swap positions. If you're out front, maybe that will help pull the pack closer to the lead pack. The car a little bit on the free side, but Martin is having a great run.
Thank you, Matt. This has been a Visa race break. Let's rejoin Darrell, Larry, and Mike.
210 of 500 miles complete this next time around. The front 4 have a 6-second breakaway on the 2nd pack right now.
And I've been watching Ryan Newman's car, and as he goes by, I can see the right side of it. He visibly has a lot of damage to the right side of that race car. There you can see where he scrubbed it up against the wall, knocked all the lettering off the tires, but it hadn't seemed to slow him down too much, although Michael and the other 2 cars, Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, got away from him a little bit.
So there's a pack of 4, then there's a group of 10, then another group of about 12, and way back are the drivers who got gigged for speeding on pit road. 32 seconds behind the leader come Kurt Busch, Mark Martin, Dave Blaney, Jimmy Johnson, and further back yet, Travis Quaffle, Sterling Marlin, along with Kevin LePage, Kevin Harvick, and Mayfield. Debris on the racetrack will put us under caution for the 3rd time today.
And that is a huge break for this group right here. We talked earlier it was going to take a caution, and especially see that red car right up in front of the leaders, the 19 car. He was about to go a lap down. Jeremy Mayfield, remember, he was one of the teams that was caught speeding on pit road. Huge break for this group.
Elliott Sadler's well too. Larry, I think he's going to get the lucky dog.
Free pass.
The starter reports debris in the tri-oval near start finish, and there's also debris on the racetrack out in the area of turn 3. So that puts us under caution for the 3rd time today. Indeed, Elliott Sadler, the first car 1 lap down, will get the free pass on this caution flag. Matt?
Mike, what took place between the trading of paint with Ryan Newman and Michael Waltrip? Newman didn't realize how tight his race car had gotten. He drifted high. That's what happened. Meanwhile, Michael Waltrip says his car is on the tight side as well.
It sounds like all these cars are experiencing what we expected, Darrell. The more rubber's laid on this racetrack, the more heat that gets in everything, the front end does not want to turn. In other words, the driver's turning the steering wheel and the front's just sliding up the racetrack.
Well, this came at a good time for a lot of guys, I'm telling you. This puts a bunch of guys back in the show.
I would say just like the last pit stop, earlier caution, I think everybody on the lead lap and everyone that's even a lap down will be to pit road for 4 tires, fuel, and adjustments. We were very close to that next green flag pit stop.
Now this brings 28 drivers right back up in touch with the leaders, and I think some of them in the back, Larry, will see gamble with 2 tires to get track position.
I don't know, Mike. It's been so long since that last pit stop. I think with what we've seen, the 2 tires on long runs, I think this will be a good time. We're almost halfway to get those 4 tires. Dick Berger.
Well, Jeff Burton just got congratulated by his crew chief, Kevin Hamlin, for not getting caught speeding on the last pit stop. It was a subtle reminder, don't get caught this time. Burton has pitted very, very close to the wall. He backs the car up. That costs time. This will not be the fastest of pit stops. Steve.
They make a track bar adjustment for Tony Stewart, 4 tires. His crew chief, Greg Zapadelli, saying, watch your pit road speed. Matt.
Jeff Gordon in the last stop, his car started out loose, then went tight. They didn't make any adjustments. They're talking about a chassis because he's already down the way. A big battle off pit road as Tony Stewart will beat everybody. 13-second stop for Michael Waltrip. They tried to tighten track bar to loosen him up as well.
31 had a terrible time. Jeff Burton, he slid it in the pit box, got it up against the pit wall, and they couldn't get the jack under the left side. Really, really hurt him. Watch this. He's going pretty fast right here. Now they need the Chevy back. He does back up a little bit, but not enough for the when the jack man comes around. You'll see. Watch.
Jack man cannot even get that long handle to jack it up. One pump should get that jack up, and you see he has to keep twisting it, keep pumping it. Again, mistakes on pit road. Here was a 5th place car that's going to go from 5th to about 25th. Unlike Michael Waltrip's group, not a very happy group here.
Here, though, are the kings of pit road this time around. Tony Stewart's Home Depot crew.
Ford going for its 3rd straight Nextel Cup Championship. The last 2 Cup Series, Jack Roush's teams, Matt Kenseth in 2003, Kurt Busch in 2004. When you look at the rest of the guys driving Fords, people like Biffle, Greg Biffle, Carl Edwards, Mark Martin. In fact, this Ford is built for the road ahead with a stable of very talented drivers. And Jeff Hammond, you and I talked with Jack Roush this week with the familiar nickname Cat in the Hat, and he said he thinks this is his best stable of drivers. Young Carl Edwards can learn from these veterans, and right now you see where they're running currently in the Daytona 500. Greg Biffle up to 4th.
Oh, they're doing an outstanding job, and I must agree with Jack Roush. He has got some outstanding drivers right now driving for him, and they're going to be tough to beat again.
Kurt Busch, defending points champ, not a lot of love this week in terms of, hey, he's the guy you'd pick in this race today.
Well, when you come down here, it's hard to bet against guys like Earnhardt and Gordon when it comes to Daytona.
Under caution, getting ready to go. Let's rejoin Larry, Darrell, and Mike.
Well, the whole pack is back together, Chris. 32 strong on the lead lap, single file in the outside lane for this restart. Tony Stewart, your leader. Michael Waltrip 2nd. Jeff Gordon 3rd. Greg Biffle is the first Ford in 4th place. Jamie McMurray, the first Dodge, in 6th place. And Dick Berggren, problem on pit road?
Yeah, Boris Said was having the front end aligned on his car. He took off, and when he did, one of the pieces of equipment that they were using to align the front end got caught in the rear wheel. And when that happened, it went flying. Chuck Ethau, who you see right here, got hit in the ankle by that piece of flying metal, as did Josh Yost. Ethau is with Boris' car. Yost is with the number 31 of Jeff Burton. So the EMTs right now are looking at him, and one of those EMTs is my pit road spotter, Jeff Probst, right in the middle of it, trying to help Chuck Ethau.
Thanks, Dick. Tony Stewart will lead them down for this restart. Lapped cars in the inside row. Casey Mears, Bobby Hamilton Jr., Brian Vickers, Kenny Schrader, Boris Said, and Ricky Rudd.
Green flag, green flag.
Stewart, Waltrip, and Gordon in Chevrolets, Biffle's Ford, Scott Riggs Chevy, and Jamie McMurray and Rusty Wallace in Dodges, the front 7.
Well, for all the guys that love to see that caution flag, I tell you, Ryan Newman, look where he ended up, Larry. He is way back there. I guess they had to fix that body, to get the body work right on the side, on the right side of the car.
And make sure that the wheels were aligned right. Need to also mention that Kyle Busch in the 5 car is back out there after major repairs, 52 laps down, as well as Mike Wallace in the 4, 62 laps down. Right now, we only have 3 cars out of this race.
That's right. Kyle Busch has come back on the racetrack, trying to hold speed. You see the speed climbing now up past 180 miles an hour as they come to full speed. What do you say we turn that knob a little bit?
Suits me. Let's crank it up.
Very quickly, you see the field is split into 2 packs, the haves and the have-nots.
But let me tell you who has made the rebound of the day. Dale Jarrett in the 88 car. Remember, he was our Bud Cole sitter. Started on the inside the front row. We're riding with him here as we look back at Martin Truex Jr. in the 1. Little bump draft down the back straightaway. They started on the pole. They stayed up there for a little bit. They got that hard hit from Dale Earnhardt Jr. early in the race. He went back to about 38, but now they have continued to improve that car, Steve, and he's up there in the top 10 now.
And Larry Mack, listen to this. The last 2 pit stops, they have done nothing but change 4 tires on Dale Jarrett's number 88. This 3rd stop prior, they added some tape to the nose and raised the track bar, and they have marched inside that top 10. Jeannie?
Chief of the 48, Chad Canals, ever the positive presence, reminded his driver after the last stop. We are right back in this thing now. Good job of staying calm, Jimmy Johnson. Of course, this car a little loose. They made a track bar and air pressure adjustments as well to the tires. More words of wisdom just recently from Canals. Said it is about to get wild. And don't forget, the 97 wants to work with you.
That 48, the low Chevy of Jimmy Johnson, was about 25th when he came into the pits on the caution flag. He's now 13th.
Well, they had a great pit stop, and we talked earlier. He has that little bit of opening in front of him leaving, and it does not block him in. He has a kind of a free area to get out of his pit box.
There was no question when the race started. Most everybody picked Jimmy Johnson to win this race. So I think that rebound came at a good time for him.
That 14 car, John Andretti, that's a good run for this race car. He's up there in the 13th position. Remember, this is basically a brand new team. This was a team that was not locked into the field. They had to come down here and qualify. They got in on their speed. This is a good run for John. Has that Yates power under the hood.
The thing about teams like that, Larry, is, you know, can they hang? Can they hang around there all day and be there at the finish? That's the big question.
John, the nephew of Mario Andretti, cousin of Michael, driving for a team that did not exist September 1st. The whole deal's been put together since then, but John, quite a veteran of both NASCAR and IndyCar racing.
And he's won here before.
One here driving for old Cale
Yarborough in the July race, but this track has been about as slick as it is in July, Larry, with the no rain and a lot of rubber and a lot of tire problems that seem to have just cured themselves.
Jason Leffler, the 3rd Joe Gibbs car, the ex-midget star, now running in 18th, Matt.
Mike, this team came to Daytona without a safety net. They had to qualify on time to make sure they can make it in. this race. They've done everything right all speed weeks. Jason's having a very solid run, fluctuating between 11th and 20th. The car a little bit on the loose side. They made an air pressure wedge adjustment. The same car Jason's driving today was the car that Tony Stewart nearly won this race 1 year ago. Meanwhile, the 12 of Ryan Newman lost a lot of track position. He's currently running just inside the top 30. They had to pull out the fender, lost a lot of time. The 16 car, Greg Biffle, is on pit road. They had a loose wheel, had a great stop. You can see why. Loose lug nuts.
Mistakes on pit road. This comes under green. You see the whole field coming off turn 4. They will blow by him like he is sitting still. He will be more than a lap down when this is all shakes out.
Well, what he hopes he can do, Larry, is get blended in here somewhere, hang in there, and maybe get the free pass when the caution flag comes out again. And the way they're racing right now, that's very possibly soon.
Yeah, Gordon just made a big dive out from underneath Michael Waltrip as they came out of the trial. Well, they got lined back up at turn 2. Hello and good wishes to 84-year-old Chris Kahne, the Dean of Racing Journalists and Broadcasters, whose What's It Like Out There became a staple of early racing telecasts. Governor Jeb Busch has proclaimed this Chris Kahne Day in the state of Florida. "96 laps complete, closing in on halfway in the Daytona 500 on Fox."
The Daytona 500 on Fox is brought to you by Toyota. Choose any direction as long as it's moving forward. Stewart takes the lead here. Our aerial views of the Daytona International Speedway and the Great American Race brought to you by Quaker State. Nice to have you along here on Fox. We're halfway through this year's running, the Daytona 500. Don't think it's over. The leader at the halfway point of this race has failed to win the last 12 times we've run the Daytona 500. Tony Stewart, Michael Waltrip, Jeff Gordon, all in Chevrolet.
Yeah, right now we just saw a picture of the 8 car Dale Earnhardt Jr. down low being pushed by Ryan Newman, trying to make his way back up to the front. Remember, he got bumped on pit road and has been at the back of the pack for a long period of time, but now he's starting to march his way back toward the front up to 8th position.
Tony Stewart took over on lap 88. We're on lap 101, and the sentimental ride, Rusty Wallace, who had to start at the back of the pack, hanging in there around the front.
Yeah, he's in it right now, running in 5th place and looking pretty racy right now as we look back here toward the back. There's a lot of movement going on. Rusty's tucked in behind Jeremy McMurray, being followed by Martin Truex here. A lot of strong race cars right now back with this lead pack.
You mentioned Jamie McMurray in the 42 car. Here's a guy, talk about driver, how they have superstitions. For the last 2 years straight, every race he wore the same boxer underwear, but he told me that in this race he'll have fireproof underwear. He hopes it brings him some good luck.
I hope so too, Chris. It makes me kind of nervous right there.
Talk about being on the hot seat.
Yeah, as we watch Michael Waltrip right now, kind of looking inside of Tony Stewart. But Tony Stewart is looking really strong right now. On the high side, it looks like Kurt Busch is trying to make a move around Jamie McMurray.
Kurt Busch is running 7th. Right behind him, Dale Earnhardt Jr., who Jamie McMurray said he would like to draft with if they got near the front. They're headed there now. Let's rejoin Larry, Darrell, and Mike.
Kurt Busch and Ryan Newman rocketed around the outside down in turn 1, Darrell, when the 2 cars in the bottom lane got all clogged up.
Yeah, they did. They got together down there, had to get up out of the gas, and the outside lane was wide open, and they come blasting through.
But guys, we just restarted this race after that last caution 13 laps ago. Ryan Newman restarted in 31st. He's all the way up to 7th or 8th right now. So if they had any problems with that car, Matt Borland and the crew made the right adjustments on it.
The Dodge is marching toward the front. Look at Kasey Kahne's progress in that Go Mango number 9 Dodge Charger, his backup car, up to 7th place.
Yeah, Tommy Ball and his crew chief, this whole team, they have had their work cut out for them all week long. Had to go to the backup cars you mentioned, Mike, and it's been a struggle all week. But here, a little past halfway, he's marching to the front in the 9 car.
Well, this slow car right here they're coming up on is really going to bottle things up.
Ricky Rudd.
Ricky in the 21 car, of course, he was involved in that wreck back on lap 26 when the left rear tire came off, and we have caution on the speedway again, a debris caution, and I think we'll have to see who maybe was the first car lap down because we had a few of them. That'll be a big break for them. It may have indeed been Greg Biffle in the 16. We'll have to see.
We're going to have to go to the tape. because they were coming across there all wadded up, couldn't tell.
There's debris about 100 yards past the start-finish line to bring us under the 4th caution of the day. Could that have been that aluminum strip they fashioned for Kevin Harvick's grill, perhaps? Kind of has that shape to it. Doesn't matter. The car that drops the piece of debris is not charged or penalized, but as a safety precaution, the caution comes out.
Now, Mike, I'll maybe go with the theory. I think the front cars, after 15 laps on these set of tires, I think they will change forward. But like you said earlier, maybe some of those guys back there trying to get back up to the front, stay out of that eye of the storm, they may roll the dice and change just 2 right side tires, because you don't need a full load of fuel here with only 15 laps since they were last on pit road.
Yeah, I think Jimmy Johnson is a guy that's really happy to see this caution, because there was something wrong with whatever they did on the last stop.
Steve?
And Mike, could be problems on that 6 car of Mark Martin. He's been complaining that the rear end fan keeps shutting off. So when they stop, they're going to pull the right side window out. They run one on the big tracks, the super speedways, so the mechanic can get inside that car and see what's wrong with either the switch or the fan.
And Daryl, I guess we'll get Steve to check on that a little closer. Is that the fan maybe that's cooling the gear oil as it goes through a cooler? We'll have to have Steve check on that just a little bit deeper.
Yeah, because of the high gear that you run here at Daytona, we didn't used to run a fan.
But I'm getting a confirmation that's it. Jeannie.
Well, here comes the 97 of Kurt Busch. He's been complaining that the car drops over on the right rear like a downforce car. So the decision is to make an air pressure adjustment to that right rear tire and to give him 4 tires as well. Nick?
Earnhardt Jr. has pitted toward the rear of his pit box so that Kyle Petty, who is pitting in front of him, doesn't block him in. Look at that.
On the bottom of your screen, Jeff Gordon makes a 4-tire change. Meanwhile, Michael Waltrip, his car was on the free side. He felt like the 24 of Gordon. As he's going to get beat off pit road, he felt like the 24 of Gordon was running over him almost, entering the corners, making him loose. They went down on the track bar to try to tighten him up.
Guys, I think Scott Wimmer in the 22 car, as he did earlier in the race, rolled the dice. We talked about it, 15 laps. He won the battle off pit road by changing 2 right side tires.
If I recall, he did that last year, late in the race.
He did.
To hang in there and finish 3rd.
Rusty Wallace in his final Daytona 500. He's running the top 10 just about all day. This is his 23rd opportunity and final one to win the big race.
Last year's surprise 3rd place finisher Scott Wimmer leads right now, but Tony Stewart, who was 2nd in last year's Daytona 500, hanging in there. He's 2nd right now, and what a stretch he's had this week. It started in the Gatorade duel as he won the 2nd race there. And then the Busch race yesterday. That pass in the grass or drag through the dirt in the 33 car in the Busch Series. His first ever Busch Series win after that super save. And 19 career wins in Cup racing. Never a restrictor plate race victory. But as we take a look at what Tony has done from the 4th position, he's in pretty good shape. Jeff Hammond, this is a Visa race break. And with his teammate out with a blown engine and Bobby Labonte, should he be concerned at this point?
Not right now, not as strong as that race car's looked so far. His car is really handling well, and so far he's been real strong. And it looks like he and Mike Waltrip are pretty happy about working together so far. So everything is looking pretty good for Tony Stewart.
We've surpassed the halfway point. You see Waltrip up there, Truex Jr. Jeff Gordon, your observation so far?
It just seems like it's a really calm and very predictable race so far. I think a lot of these competitors decided to listen to what Mike Helton said. I'm going to stay in line here. I'm going to get a little closer to the end. But what I'm also noticing, the intensity is just starting to pick up.
Been safe so far. We could have the big one as we get closer to the finish. A lot more racing to go. This has been a Visa race break from the Hollywood Hotel. Let's rejoin Larry, Darrell, and Mike.
3 drivers have dominated this race, leading 85 of 107 laps. They are Michael Waltrip, Tony Stewart, and Jeff Gordon. Stewart and Waltrip will start 2nd and 3rd behind Scott Wimmer, then Truex, Jeff Gordon, Kurt Busch, and Jamie McMurray.
Yeah, I think that you might want to send out a little weather alert, Larry. I feel turbulence picking up and could be a storm brewing.
That halfway point tends to do that.
It does.
Defending winner Dale Earnhardt Jr. is 8th. Ryan Newman is 9th. And Kevin Harvick, after early trouble, has fought his way up into the top 10 for, I think, the first time today.
Yeah, first time. I've been watching. Been back in the 15th, 18th.
And I think that comes from a little bit of a gamble by his crew chief Todd Berrier, just like Scott Wimmer in that group in the 22 car leading the race. 2 tires to get that track position.
Now, two drivers that restarted all the way to the back after long stops, Jeff Burton and Mark Martin, way at the tail end of the pack on this restart.
Pretty ragged restart. That front group broke out and left about 15 to 20 of them in their dust. Somebody wasn't ready. You got to be ready when they drop that green flag and you're on these restarts. You got to be ready to go.
Jimmy Johnson in the 48 car on the high side, he is starting to really drift backwards before that last caution, maybe like they didn't get the right adjustments made, but now he's right back up in the thick of things, banging on the door of the top 10 again.
He's the last car in that lead pack on the outside. Martin Truex, number 1, Dale Earnhardt Jr., number 8, have found each other at the front of that high groove. They've got Newman, the 12, behind them, and here come Mark Martin and Jeff Burton, 30th and 31st. Behind the 43 of Jeff Green. Steve?
Mike, with Jack Roush, the owner of the 6 car. Jack, you've had Mark on pit road twice. Tell us what the situation is.
We've got 2 fans for the rear end cooler hooked to 1 circuit breaker. It was blowing the circuit breaker, it was tripping it. So we've unhooked one of the fans. It may be that the fan that's hooked up is a bad one. It's either that or a bad circuit breaker. The next time we get a caution, we will reverse the fans and we'll know it's either we can't be fixed because it's a circuit breaker's problem or we've got the wrong fan hooked up to it right now. We'll figure it out later.
Thanks, Jack. To Dick Berggren.
Well, Jeff Burton had been running in the top 5, but that was a long pit stop. The problem under the back end of the car, a seal in the rear end appears to have failed, and he is losing rear end grease, and they tried to fix it.
Boy, that's going to make everybody behind him very unhappy.
And that's a shame. He had an awfully good car earlier in the week.
We talked about making no mistakes. There is Jeff Burton getting into the back of Dale Jr. as they both came on to pit road. They were both able to make their stops, but a little later on, Burton came in too close to the wall, and the Jackman has trouble getting the car up in the air to complete the 4-tire change.
You know, one thing, Larry, I just thinking about, the reason that Mark might be having a problem, you try to run the rear end grease as low as you possibly can. All that grease in there creates drag, and so you try to keep it right on the minimum side. That's why he needs those blowers to keep that gear cool.
Now Burton, after another long stop, you see him just ahead of Jason Leffler, and you see some of that rear end grease on the windshield of Leffler's car. The windshields in these cars aren't glass like in your passenger car. They're Lexan, and they're very hard to scrub clean. Steve.
Hey, Mike, just an update on Tony Stewart. When that caution came out on lap 103, he told crew chief Greg Zipadelli, I need a lot of help now on the rear end of this race car. So they brought him down pit road, put on 4 tires, and he raised, the team rather, raised the track bar on that 20 car.
Just sounds like that, again, the handling characteristics of this track continues to change. The more laps that get run on it, and again, these cars start sliding around more and more. That's where these crew chiefs, through feedback of the driver, has to stay on top of adjustments.
Here's our final singular virtual crew chief question of the day. To vote, text the word crew to 191 on your singular wireless phone, or go to foxsports.com and you'll be entered to win your own singular number 31 car and answer the question, will Tony Stewart win his 3rd race of the week?
You know, some of these issues too, Larry, you create yourself. It's that old theory I have, don't beat yourself. Why, you know, fix things the way you know they got to be to run 500 miles here, and don't do things to the car to make it go fast short term for short-term gain and long-term loss.
It'll sure bite you in a 500-mile race.
We've heard from the leaders pit. Let's go to the pits of the 2nd place car.
Michael Waltrip in the 15 can run anywhere, but he wants to run with Tony Stewart. Stewart's team told Michael's team he is tight. He needs to run the bottom, so that's where Michael is trying to run. The problem is the 24 of Gordon keeps sizing Michael up. Michael knows one small mistake, if he goes right, Gordon will go left and vice versa. In fact, Gordon has been laying back off of 2 for several laps, making huge runs, sizing him up for later in the race.
Mark Martin has run up in the top 10, but he's made a pit stop for a rear end cooling fan problem. Jeff Hammond.
Mike, we're down here with the Ford Cutaway car. I want to show you what Jack Roush was talking about. If you look right in this area, this is the cooler that the fan is blowing through. And what it does, they take air from outside, blow it through this cooler, and when the cooler does, it circulates the grease in through it, back into the rear end housing. Now, Darrell was talking about the rear gears. If you don't have them properly lubricated, what will happen? It will gald up, it will burn up, it will put you out of the Daytona 500. So making sure that these fans are operating because they're not taking any outside air in and forcing it through the fan. It's all coming by these fans. That's the reason why Jack Roush has got to make sure they get everything right. We're going to take another look at something here. We're going to rotate this car on around. We were talking about the windshields and trying to make sure we get the Lexan clean. As you see the car start to come around, we'll also get an opportunity to understand why you've got to get these front windshields clean. That's the only way the driver has the opportunity to look out as he goes down in the corner. And this gives you a pretty good idea. This is about what you're looking at as you go through the corner. But here's the Lexan that they're talking about. This is what the windshields are made out of. It's almost a bullet-resistant material, so when something hits it, it will bounce off, but it will scratch up, and you can't sandblast it. A lot of the teams will put little tear-offs on it, so when they come down pit road, they can remove that and make it like a new windshield.
There is a clear view out Michael Waltrip's Napa Chevrolet at the race leader. Tony Stewart won his Gatorade Dual race Thursday, won the Busch 300 Saturday, trying to win his first Daytona 500 Sunday. 116 laps complete as Bobby Labonte and Matt Kenseth's team begin the long ride home. They're already out of the Daytona 500 on Fox.
Welcome back to the Daytona 500. 80 laps to go. Tony Stewart leads Michael Waltrip and Jeff Gordon. 3 Chevys on top. Kurt Busch in a Ford, currently running 4th. Joe Gibbs Racing with Dale Jarrett won the Daytona 500 back in 1993. Trying to do it today with Tony Stewart. Play the Gillette Young Guns $1 million watch and win game. Find game pieces on specially marked Gillette, Oral-B, and Duracell products. And this week's Gillette Young Guns winning code number is QFLZFC. Go to www.GilletteYoungGuns.com for the details and rules. Find out how to get a free game piece as we get a look at the running order. Kurt Busch, Jimmie Johnson, and Kevin Harvick. And, you know, while we're talking about Kevin Harvick, he's up to 6th, and right behind him at 7th is Jimmie Johnson. And who could forget what happened Thursday in the Gatorade Duel when Jimmie Johnson said Harvick should be fired. Of course, they since got together and said, hey, it's all racing.
Well, right now, as you watch Jimmie Johnson follow the 29 car Kevin Harvick, they must have buried their differences somewhat because they're working together to try to get their way up toward the front and put themselves in a position to try to win this Daytona 500.
It's fascinating that during the week you can get so mad at somebody you want NASCAR to come down hard, and now you're drafting together, riding along on a Sunday afternoon.
Well, Chris, I feel that same way about you from time to time, but we kind of pull it together when it comes crunch time, and that's what these guys are doing. They're realizing they need to work together and settle their differences later on at a different place at a different time.
We always have to put on our game face. We've had teammates leading like Jeff Gordon and Jimmie Johnson. We've had some past Daytona 500 winners leading today like Michael Waltrip.
Well, right now what I'm seeing is Kevin Harvick's car is really working really well. It looks like going to the outside, and so far Jimmie Johnson's sticking right with him, and those two guys are able to, keep putting pressure on the guys on the front.
Let's check in with Matt Yoakum.
Chris, success in racing is all about people, crew chiefs and drivers, but more importantly, the men behind the scenes, like Tony Gibson on the Napa team. He has won here with Jeff Gordon. He won here last year with Dale Earnhardt Jr. Daytona special, not because of the victories, but because for 25 years, his mom managed the ticket office here at the Daytona International Speedway. So for the fans at home who might have called the 800 number and got a ticket, you might have talked to his mom, Peggy. She recently retired after 25 years here at Daytona.
You know, Larry, it's 4:25 in the afternoon, and I'm sure the track temp has come down considerably. I think that's helping some of these guys that were having some handling issues.
Yeah, because the track will get more grip as it cools down. The other thing I'm kind of sensing, DW, is that the cars are tightening up. In other words, the front wheels are sliding a lot through the corners.
And the other thing I'm sensing is that 24 car is wanting to get by the 15 of Michael. He's trying real hard.
Look just behind them. Harvick on the bottom, the 29, with the man who Thursday said he should be fired. Jimmie Johnson, his best drafting friend until just now when the 42 of McMurray slid down between them. But Harvick and Johnson together have worked that inside up to put Harvick in the top 5.
Hey, listen, it's all about making deals, and, you know, sometimes you're not real choosy about who you have to make a deal with at this point.
I tell you, two guys that have pretty good cars, Brian Vickers in that 25 car on the outside and Casey Mears in the 41, the white car on the bottom. Remember, that was two guys that were caught for speeding earlier in the day, and they're up there trying to battle a race within the race to be the top running car of those two. Should a caution come out, get back on the lead lap.
See a lot of racing back in the pack, but we haven't seen a whole lot of racing up near the front. Those guys are pretty content right now.
I don't think who's content, though, is Kasey Kahne in that 9 car. Look at the run he got off turn 2 that time, sucked right up to Kevin Harvick in the 29. He's on the move.
Kahne restarted 13th as he climbs to 6th. Tony Stewart is the Pied Piper of the Daytona 500 thus far. 129 laps complete. Tony Stewart continues to drag the front 5 now around single file. Jimmy Johnson has caught up with the leaders, but from there on back, Darrell, things are busy in that second pack.
Well, that's because these crew chiefs, these spotters are telling the drivers in that second pack, you got to get back up to that front pack. If you don't, they're going to get away from you, and they're beating the fenders off these cars back in here. And when I say back in here, we're only talking about 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. Look at that.
Casey Mears in the 41 sideways at 190 miles per hour. But I tell you who's in that group right there. I've been watching him. Mark Martin in the 6 car. Remember, we have 32 cars on the lead lap. He was at the rear of the field on this restart because he's fighting that rear end fan. But he's not going to let nothing keep him from contending for this Daytona 500.
Martin's number 6 restarted 32nd as he passes Mike Skinner. That will move him up to 12th.
Some of these cars are really jukey, man. I mean, they're just jumping around from one.
But I think this late in the race, Darrell, I know we still have 70 laps to go. Mark Martin, Pat Trice, and Jack Roush, they got to forget that rear end fan. Forget it even exists. We got to go now and keep this track position.
Can't fix it now, baby.
Steve, 175 miles left to race. What's going on in the leaders pit?
Hey, Mike, Matt Yoakum just introduced you to one of the men behind the scenes who are so important to these race teams. I want you to meet one in Tony Stewart's pitch. You're looking at Jason Schapiro. He's been with Joe Gibbs Racing since the team's inception. He and his wife had plane tickets booked to go scuba diving at Phuket Beach in Thailand. They were to leave December 27th. The tsunami hit on December 26th. Jason Schapiro, one guy who is in fact just happy to be here.
And I like that second group. Jimmy Johnson's right there at the tail end of the front, but these guys behind him are chasing them down. They're a couple of 3/10 quicker, and pit stops are coming.
Yeah, we're only about 8 to 10 laps from possibly some green flag pit stops. You see Brian Vickers in the 25 car. Remember, he's a lap down, but he's trying to stay with this group to try to get back on the lead lap as he's beating on the back of Kasey Kahne in the 9 through 3 and 4.
Well, right now, Larry, you know you got to try to keep these front 5 cars here in sight, and you're going to have to do something weird on a pit stop, like take 2 tires.
Possibly.
To stay with them or at least catch back up to them.
Let's go to the pits of the second place car, Matt.
Michael Waltrip, spotter, has made a good observation to Michael. He says Jimmy Johnson, the 48, almost lets off a little bit coming through the tri-oval, goes high into turn 1, then dives down low and gets a great run off turn 2, making him aware of that move if Jimmy gets close to him and tries to make that move later in the race. Meanwhile, Jeff Gordon says his car is tight right now in traffic. If he was out front, the car would be perfect.
Back straightaway, Mike Skinner, I think, brushed the wall in turn 2, Darrell.
He either did that or he's out of fuel, one or the other, because all of a sudden he just went up the track and he could not get down out of the way.
If he's out of fuel, he looks like he's possibly running there. I was going to say if he's out of fuel, they maybe didn't get him full that last time, but he looks like he's still running possibly.
He was 14th and will come on to pit road. Don't see any apparent damage on the right side.
When you get right down,
23.
Yeah, here he is right here. You're going to see him brush the wall. I think
McMurray hit the wall.
McMurray did. I saw dust.
It was the 42 car.
But when you get right here near a pit window like this, when you get close to a pit stop, the tires are worn out. Cars are handling the worst. You know, you can barely hang on to them.
Going to get the left front fender pulled out. Left front fender pulled out.
Now he gets down in here, down into, there you go. Somebody got into him. I knew I saw the dust fly.
I think that maybe is 99, Carl Evans.
Pit stop's coming, so we'll take one first. You're watching NASCAR on Fox. Leaders, Tony Stewart, Michael Waltrip, Jeff Gordon, and Kurt Busch making green flag pit stops. We're now into the second lap of those at lap 137, meaning at least one more round of pit stops to follow.
One more chance to get 4 fresh tires should we stay green, and one more chance to make those adjustments. We see Joe Nemechek in the 01 car. He had inherited the lead, making his pit stop, as well as Jason Leffler, Casey Mears, and Jeff Green. These are all scheduled stops.
It's also one more chance, Larry, to cool your jets just a little bit. When you sit there, it takes so much mental concentration and so much focus that, man, you appreciate that short time on pit road to kind of get yourself relaxed a little bit before you get back in battle.
So as things cycle through, Tony Stewart will come back around with the lead. Jeff Gordon with him. Jimmy Johnson, Michael Waltrip, Mark Martin, Kurt Busch, and Kasey Kahne are in the lead draft, Steve.
And Mike, they went down pit road very quickly. Tony said, keep helping this rear end of the race car, so they made another track bar adjustment. Matt.
Tony Stewart pretty much dictated that round of pit stops. Michael Waltrip was going to pit on lap 141. No adjustments for the 15. Meanwhile, the 24, Jeff Gordon. Told you earlier the car was tight in traffic. Slight air pressure adjustment for the 2-time Daytona 500 winner. Jenny?
As for the reigning Cup champ, Kurt Busch, car was getting tight. Got to free her up more is what he said as he made his way in. So he called for a track bar and an air pressure adjustment. And checking in with the pit at 48 of Jimmy Johnson. Great pit stop, really quick, and great car, says Jimmy. Don't touch it. No adjustments, just 4 tires. Dick?
Rusty Wallace trying to win the Daytona 500 in his final appearance in this race. Pit crew has been flawless. Wallace right now running in the 9th position. He gets better as the run goes on. So what Rusty wants to see is a long green flag run right here, Mike.
He's lined up with his teammate Ryan Newman. Meanwhile, on pit road, the Cinderella story of Thursday, Kevin LePage, the glass slipper broke. They lost a lap trying to push him, get him restarted. Now he finally fires and gets back in the race.
It appears they probably ran him out of fuel. We have 3 speeders on that set of green flag pit stops. This is the second green flag stop of the day. Dale Jarrett, our bud pole sitter, we're riding him with him here now. He had to do a pass through, and they've been black flagging him, which that means you have to come to pit road for your penalty. But 2 other drivers for the second time today, Dave Blaney in the 07 and Jeremy Mayfield in the 19. Now we see Dale Jarrett doing the pass through, which means he just has to come down pit road, not stop, maintain pit road speed 55 miles per hour.
Well, let's remind you folks, there are no speedometers in these race cars. There's a tachometer that shows engine speed, and on the pace lap before the start of the race, the field is split in half. There are 2 pace cars that each lead half the field at pit road speed, so the driver can tell where that is on the tachometer and get a rough gauge of how fast they should be going.
In the past, they've done it with stopwatches. You see the lines up and down pit road. That's the timing lines. And the driver only has that tack, and he can only get a reading under the pace lap when he's behind the pace car, and it can vary. You listen to the spotters. I'm 42. What's everybody else? They're 44. Oh, well, maybe I missed it a little bit. No, you're the guys are 4,000. It's all over the place. Not really an exact science.
Guys, I'm so impressed with our 5th place car right now. Mark Martin in that 6th car. Impressed with Mark, impressed with his team. Remember, in the qualifying races on Thursday, involved in a big wreck. Instead of going to a backup car, Pat Trice and his team decided to repair that car. They worked hours after hours repairing it. He had a rear end blower problem just a few laps ago. They restarted back in 32nd position. Here he's up here with about 59 laps to go in the top 5.
Let's get an update on the 2nd place car. Here's Matt.
Jeff Gordon came on the radio 2 laps ago and said, all right, tell the 48, what does he want to do? We'll go ahead and make our move. The last lap by, he clicked back on the radio again and says, why is the 48 laying out as the caution's out for debris once again here at Daytona?
Debris in turn number 2 puts us under the caution flag. This would be, I believe, the 5th one of the day. Just after everybody's made a green flag pit stop. So 31 cars on the lead lap in the Daytona 500 and 142 laps.
Dale Jarrett, the pole sitter today. UPS, the official delivery company of NASCAR, delivers the chance to win 4 tickets to next year's Daytona 500. Go to foxsports.com, keyword UPS, or OPS, as they say in the office. Time Let's take a check on pit road on Dale Earnhardt Jr., who has failed to lead a lap today.
Right now we see Dale Jr. come back on off the pit road. Their car's not working like it was early on, and they keep working it to try to make it better. As he comes off pit road, we were also seeing a shot of Dale Jarrett. It looked like they made his car a little bit better, and all of a sudden he faded back. Now, here's a guy who's been having a lot of trouble on pit road. They look like they're working underneath the right rear spring. I don't know if they're working on the trying to put another spring rubber in, or if they're working with the trailing arm trying to make his car track a little bit better.
Let's check in back on Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Dick Bergman has the latest. Dick?
Well, Junior's really having a problem with the nose of the car. He says it simply does not have any grip, and they have adjusted that car a lot to try to make the front end bite. We'll see if it works this time when we get back to green, Chris.
All right, thanks, Dick. So 9 leaders today, 14 lead changes. Tony Stewart leading for the 4th time. We've gone 144 laps here in the Daytona 500.
In 2005 will be my last shot at a Daytona 500. Does that eat on me? No, it does not. And I'm not going to apologize to anybody. I've had a great career, and I've been incredibly blessed, and I've done more than I ever could have dreamed of. Every race is an opportunity to win, and it doesn't matter to me if it's Martinsville or the Daytona 500. A win is a win is a win is a win. If I was only going to win one, it might be different. But they didn't give me a choice of which one I could win. I was just fortunate enough to win more than one race, and that's how I look at it.
Today, Mark Martin begins his 18th season with Jack Roush. He's started every race since the '88 Daytona 500, 545 straight races. But he'll have to get past Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, and Michael Waltrip if he's going to have a shot at victory lane. Stewart, that orange car on the outside, Darrell, has been strongest all day. But behind him, the Hendrick teammates, Gordon and Johnson, the Roush teammates are hooked up, and that's Martin and Busch, and all the Dodges are hooked up together. Yeah, Tony Stewart, does he have any friends?
I don't know about that, but we had some ugly restarts, and I got to believe it. Everybody knows Tony's fast. Everybody knows Jeff. I mean, you're looking at the cream of the crop right now, so you want to pick a partner here pretty soon.
About those Roush teammates, Jeannie?
Oh, yes. If I can't win, I would love to see Mark Martin do it. It has been top of mind for Kurt Busch all day. When the 6 car's been behind him, he's tried to work with others to slow down and to help Martin move forward. Sentimental favorite, sure, but it helps that Martin has a really fast car. And how about Jimmy Johnson? He said earlier in Speed Weeks, when I grow up, I want to be Mark Martin. So much fire, so much class. Matt?
Under that caution, Jeff Gordon jumped over to Jimmy Johnson's radio frequency. They both discussed how their race cars are handling. Jimmy told Jeff how he was going to the high side into turn 1, arcing the corner, and then coming off low. Jeff said if they're going to make a move on Stewart, they're going to have to go high. They're not going to be able to do it down low. Rick Hendrick chimed in and says, you didn't come here to run second. When are you going to make your move? And Jeff said, I'm waiting for the right time. I don't want to get shoveled. You'll be the first. Wait a minute. No, you'll be the second to know when I go to make my winning move.
I'm going to tell you what, though, Matt, Jeff Gordon in that 24 car, he keeps peeking out to the outside of Tony Stewart in the 20. And Jimmy Johnson in the 48, he opened the door a while ago on the backstretch, and he lost 3 positions.
Yeah, and Jeff Gordon lost his helper. So now he's got to think about, okay, is Michael going to work with me?
That is the question.
Tony Stewart started this race with 2 teammates, Bobby Labonte out with engine trouble, and Jason Leffler, who is now the 12th place car. Steve?
Mike, when caution came out on lap 142, Greg Zipadelli and Tony Stewart debated coming down pit road again because he wants some better handling of the rear end of that race car, but they had just 6 green flag laps on those tires. They knew they'd have to stop again, so they elected to keep track position. Dick?
Car number 42 has hung around the top 10 all day, but in the last few laps he has developed an overheating problem. Very concerned about their ability to finish the race with the temperature gauge going the wrong way. Matt?
Tony Stewart and Jason Leffler both won national championships driving for the same USAC midget team. Tony's acted like a mentor to Jason. In fact, during practice, the 2 teammates were drafting together, and then Tony dumped him, hung him out twice, and then when the practice was over, Tony sat him down and said, this is what you did right, and this is what you did wrong. This is how you can fix it next time to work better in the draft. So Tony has been working on his protege, hoping that he can get up there and help Tony go to victory lane.
Rush hour. Leffler's right smack in the middle of it as they're 2 and 3 wide. He's got a long way to go and a long crowd to get through if he's to have any chance of helping Stewart.
Now we're watching Jimmy Johnson in the 48 car on the high side. He has help from Kasey Kahne in the 9, starting to claw his way back from those positions he lost about 3 laps ago.
There's the eye of the storm back there, 3 abreast.
Look at that.
Can you tell we're getting down to crunch time?
Can you tell who that is? It's kind of hard to tell with all these cars bottled up like this.
Well, guys, we're 3/4 of the way through this race, and we have 25 cars in less than 2 seconds of each other.
And everybody's kind of, listen, you've been sitting in that thing for 3 hours. You've made a lot of decisions in this last 3 hours. Now you got to make the best ones you've made all day. They better be right.
From our Quaker State aerial coverage, that car in the middle was the 29 of Kevin Harvick, and right behind him, the 22 of last year's 3rd place finisher, Wisconsin's Scott Wimmer.
Some of the guys were telling me, Mike, that right there where that group is, you just have a hard time passing. And all you do, you get frustrated, you start beating on the guy around you. That's when we have a problem.
48 laps to go. Tony Stewart has led the most. He led the most last year. A look at the world's most famous beach, where they ran speed trials from the turn of the prior century to 1958, and then moved the racing here to Bill France's big new 2.5-mile tri-oval speedway, high banked, where we still run the Daytona 500 47 years after the first one, when Lee Petty beat Johnny Beauchamp in a photo finish that took 3 days to decide.
But they never, those guys had never heard of arrow push.
Everybody's on pit road, Jeannie.
Well, as the caution came out, Kurt Busch asked his crew chief, what do you want to do? The car's running all right. Coming for 4, said Jimmy Fenning. Busch asked him, well, where do we stand on fuel from here? Well, said his crew chief, we'd be about 13 laps short. Steve?
No changes for Mark Martin into 6. Tony Stewart got 4 tires. Matt?
Shuffling the air pressure on the 24 car of Jeff Gordon. Just a slight adjustment. No changes for Michael Waltrip's team. He was talking about possibly 2 tires. Tony Eury Jr. wanted to go for 4. Nick?
Rusty Wallace strategy to win the Daytona 500. He just took 4 tires, no changes at all in the chassis. He likes the way the car is handling in the corner. Now here's the plan at the end of the race. He expects to take just 2 tires. He has 1 windshield tear off left on that windshield. He wants it pulled on that last stop. That's the game plan.
And I think here's the deal, guys. We need to make note that caution was for debris, but I think this gives these guys an opportunity to get those 4 tires on, like Dick Bergman was talking about. Maybe an opportunity late in the race. They're going to be about 8 to 10 laps short of making the distance of taking 2 tires or maybe fuel only.
486 drivers in history have started the Daytona 500. Only 29 have won it.
Fox welcomes you back to the Daytona 500, and this is a Visa race break. We've had 10 leaders, 15 different lead changes. Right now, Jeff Burton is on top with 43 laps to go. It started with Dale Jarrett on the pole and a little hello bump from Dale Earnhardt Jr., who has not led a lap, by the way. Jarrett fell back. Bobby Labonte, former points champion, blown engine, one of the Gibbs cars out, done for the day. Matt Kenseth, also a former points champ, Roush car, broke a connecting rod. Hate when that happens. Said he had his best car ever for Daytona. He's done. In turn 4, Ricky Rudd in his 28th Daytona 500. Trying to win his first Daytona 500. 6 cars involved in pit problems for Jeff Burton in the 31 car. Bumps Dale Earnhardt Jr. and then Burton here overshoots has to back up. It cost him at the time, and Tony Stewart has led the most laps so far. Of course, he led the most laps in the 2004 Daytona 500 when he finished second. Now let's look inside the top 15. Kurt Busch, last year's points champ, right? Moments ago out of the pits, here's what it sounded like on his car radio.
Burkhouse doing me two things. Tell the 48 I like him. He's my best friend right now. And then the 6 car. Ask how many tires they have. Really? 6 car got 4 tires? He beat us out by like 10 spots.
Well, what you're hearing right now is it's kind of like the amazement of Kurt Busch as far as Mark Martin's concerned. But his deal making has already started. He's looking for friends to get back toward the front. Remember, Chris, we've only got one more stop. It's showtime. What Mike Helton won't have happen is happening right now. Everything's getting ready to build as we get ready to go back to green.
Big picture racing, and the picture coming to an end. We'll see what happens. This has been a Visa Race Break. Let's rejoin Larry, Darrell, and Mike.
105 miles to go. Again, some 2-tire stops have put new names at the front of the field. Jeff Burton, Scott Wimmer, Carl Edwards in front of Tony Stewart.
Yeah, and some of these guys, Jeff Gordon, Michael, and Michael Waltrip, and some of these guys are back. That's the furthest they've been back in the field all day long. So they got to be careful working their way back up through there.
And the guy leading the race, Jeff Burton, in the 31 car, elected not to pit. Remember, he's fighting that rear end seal problem. He was on pit road a couple of extra times the pit stop before. But you see Tony Stewart in that 20 car, I think 2 tires, 4 tires. He's got good help behind him in that 6 car. He's headed back to the front. Steve.
Hey, Larry Mack, just to catch you up on exactly what the 20 team did on that last pit stop, they went down a half a pound on both left side tires and up a half a pound on the right side tires.
Well, when you go up in the right side pressure and down in the left side, you open the split up in the air pressures. It helps the car to turn, and I think this racetrack is tightening up. The cars are turning less and less as the track gets more grip and cools down.
Yeah, the first turn down here is in the shade. The grandstand here around the crowd was in the shade. It's probably a good 15, 20 degrees cooler than it was when the race started.
Jeff Gordon's in a bad spot in that number 24. The 2-time 500 winner is behind Boris Said. One of the cars a lap down, and he's not been able to get out and move forward to the front of that pack. He's going to have to go if he's going to have a chance.
And some of these cars, they're not happy in traffic. They get back in there in all that dirty air, and they just don't run as well as they do once they get up front.
Jeff Gordon on the 24, he has his teammate Jimmy Johnson in the 48 behind him, but right now, as you say, Mike, they're bottlenecked up behind the 36, Boris says.
Saw this in the 150 with Jeff Gordon. He got back in the pack, and the first thing you know, he was bouncing off of people, and he had to back up, and he got a bad finish.
Whoa, Michael Waltrip in a cloud of smoke.
I don't think that's a good thing. He's got his hand out the window.
Big pack inside here. Big pack inside. They're all coming hard. Tom, Timmy, you got a tire down?
It's not running.
All right, guys, we blew up. We're coasting into 3. We're coming to pit road. Caution is out.
That tells the tale.
Well,
the sound of silence.
We were going for 3 in a row. 0-1, 0-3, and I thought we had him going today, but tough break for Mikey. I feel a little sad about that.
Watch that number 15. Right in front of Gordon.
Yeah, he knows it right there. Up the hill he goes. She started slowing down on him. See the smoke coming out from under the hood.
Not doing that motor good.
Shut her down.
Boy, we were lucky we didn't have a big problem behind him.
He's going to go down here to his pit and just check the car, but I think that's probably pretty terminal.
24 is up with you now. Inside, 3 wide, 3, 4 wide. You all right? Big pack inside here. Big pack inside. They're all coming hard.
It's the silence. The silence that's deafening there. The motor not running for Michael Waltrip.
That's Buffy, his wife. She's headed back to the coach and packing up and getting ready to head west.
Now, this is what I think we might be setting up here with, as you see the 15 crew about to push Michael back behind the wall, is we're going to have 38 laps to go this time. We probably are going to have another 2 or 3 caution laps, I think we'll see teams come to pit road and top off, because that can get them to the end on fuel, Matt.
You're exactly right, Larry. Jeff Gordon's calculations before this caution, they were 7 to 8 laps shy on fuel. Michael Waltrip came on the radio and said, guys, I feel just sick. We had such a great race car today.
There you see all the leaders, a little bit of cat and mouse game, but right now all of them will come to pit road. Guys, this could be the most important pit stop of these teams today should we stay green. You have to be on the mark with no mistakes. Looks like Jeff Burton in the 31 car, they're going to change tires.
Earnhardt Jr. stayed out along with Harvick, Jarrett, and Andretti.
Now Tony Stewart in the 20, Jimmy Johnson in the 48, Kurt Busch in the 97. Not surprised, fuel only. They had pretty fresh tires on that
trouble
car.
on pit road, Larry. The 9 car just spun the 11 around down here at the end of pit road.
That's Leffler sitting sideways off the bumper of Kasey Kahne.
12's blocked in. He can't go anywhere. He's trying to get through.
And we just had talked about it. And then, Darrell, most of the mistakes on pit road has not been by these pit crews. It's been by the drivers.
Well, you have no peripheral vision. You're tethered with your Hans device. You can't really turn your head one way or another. You're dependent totally on the spotter and the crew chief.
Leffler gets going, but Kasey Kahne has backed up into his pit.
And it appears that Kasey Kahne in the 9 did have no idea that Jason Leffler in 11 was fixed to turn into his pit box.
Yeah, Casey's coming out, Leffler's coming in.
Whoa.
Contact.
.38 laps to go. Next time by, 2-time Daytona 500 winner Michael Waltrip is out of it.
The Daytona 500 on Fox is brought to you by Aaron's. Aaron's makes dreams come true with dream prices on dream products. By Chevy, the defending manufacturer's champion. The revolution races on. By Lowe's, where you'll find all your home improvement needs. Lowe's, improving home improvement. And by Mountain Dew. Drink up, throw down.
The nation's outstanding race drivers will be after a rich $1,200 purse.
We're here at the world's fastest speedway for the running of the inaugural Daytona 500.
Richard Petty goes back in front. They both spin. They're in the wall. Here's Petty trying to fire to come across the line. The winner is car number 21. And there's a fight between Dale Yarborough and Davey Allison.
Oh, I won the Daytona 500. I won the Daytona 500.
Dale Earnhardt will come to the caution flag to win the Daytona 500.
He will win the 46th running of the Great American Race.
I'm Daytona 500 champion. I can't believe it.
They started over on the beach, moved here in 1959, 46 years, so many great memories. 29 different drivers have won the great race. The first race in front of 20,000 people in one low-rise grandstand. Over 200,000 of them here today, paying as much as $5,000 apiece for the top row of the Daytona Club to see the great race.
Yeah, and that race was won 1959 by Lee Petty by 2 feet. And I got a good idea we're going to see a pretty close one today.
Mike, we saw a lot of cars come back to pit road, especially those Dodge teams. We talked about them not getting great fuel mileage. They topped off with fuel on the one to go.
I believe Jeff Gordon, he's got to get up behind Tony Stewart. I don't think Mark's got a car that can really whoop out and try to take the lead. But I think Mark's got a great following car. He might be in the right place as far as pushing Tony. But Jeff Gordon's got to get around Mark to get to Tony. He's got help. He's got his teammate. But Jimmy hadn't been that good.
Green flag with 35 laps to go.
And we still have 32 cars on the lead lap.
We heard Mark say in the interview early, you know, his car was a good following car, a good pusher.
His teammate Kurt Busch, 97, trying to come up and help Martin.
Now here's where, yes sir, here's where Jimmy needs to help Jeff if they're going to get to Tony. They got to get him now. I don't think they can wait.
It's Jeremy Mayfield in the 19 car up the high side. He's up there in the 5th or 6th position. He's had 2 pit road speeding penalties today.
He's got Blaney with him in the 07. Squeeze playoff, turn number 4.
Well, Mark Martin, the 6, dove to the bottom, put the block on Jeff Burton in the 31 car, headed into the trioval.
His old teammate. Mark doesn't have a real fast race car. He got a good handling race car.
Michael Waltrip, 2-time Daytona 500 champion, out of the race. Matt's with him.
We caught up with Michael Waltrip walking back to the garage area. Michael, what a great race car today. You were just sizing everybody up.
It was all about positioning throughout the middle of the race. I just followed Tony. You know, you try to make you some comrades, and he was going to be a buddy of mine. And I just couldn't wait, Matt. I just couldn't wait for those last 25 laps because it was going to get right. People in the stands are going to see a heck of a show. You can make major runs out there, and we had a car that was going to make some. And man, the Napa Auto Parts, Domino's Pizza, Best Western Oreo Cookie, Bass Pro Shops, you know, all that part.
I know all that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I'm trying to mask the pain, but I can't. I mean, I'm just upset, but understanding. You know, I know we put a lot into this effort, and a lot of parts spinning around. Every now and then they break.
What part broke? Any idea in the motor?
I'm not a good analyst. Can't analyze that very well. I think it was a rod, but it might have been a crankshaft. Possibly a piston, something that really matters.
It was something very important, but thank you, Michael.
Trouble down here, guys. Turn 4.
4 wide, and we've got a problem. John Andretti's 14 and the 11 of Jason Leffler. Bring the caution flag out. Scoring stops immediately. And we're under caution again with 32 laps to go. Darrell, that happened just in front of those 2 cars where they got 4 wide.
Well, as you heard Michael say, he knows, we all know. Now it's showtime, and Jeff Gordon's doing all he can. Come on down. Jeff Gordon's doing all he can to get by Tony Stewart. Now he knows he can't wait, and he lost his running mate there. Jimmy Johnson went to the outside and fell back.
And what did Jimmy Johnson say earlier in the week? Whoever gets out in front on that last pit stop is going to be tough to pass. Look at him, 4 wide here.
14 just shoves up. Comes right down in front of Leffler. 14 got into Travis Quaffle in the 77, come down. Leffler in the 11 car had nowhere to go.
Let's see it from our Quaker State aerial coverage.
You see the 14, he just wobbled a little bit. He got a little push loose. Got into Travis Quaffle.
And that right there is the reason our voice goes up an octave when they're 3 and 4 wide, because this is at 190 miles per hour.
And this also, Larry, as you know, takes the fuel. This makes everybody safe on fuel, I think, with these few caution laps. If there's any question about it, I think this will put everybody into their window.
Leffler's car is probably done for the day. Let's ride with him here.
That was a hard hit.
Right in the door.
They turn 1 right dead in front of him. Jason just pull her to the bottom, pull her to the bottom. All clear all around. Take it to pit road. Still 3.
That's the worst. As a driver,
We just got hit, guys. Come on, John.
It's the worst sound you can hear is that.
But Darrell, you're right. Before that last restart with 35 to go, the crew chief, the owner, the spotter looked at the driver, talked to the driver, and said, "Okay, boys, we have 35 laps to go. It's time to go. All your bets, all your deals, all your friends, don't trust anyone."
Steve Burns.
Hey, Mike, talk about confidence. Before the last restart, crew chief Greg Zipadelli told the leader, Tony Stewart, said that 1 car is in 9th. He said he'd help you if he can get to you, but other than that, I don't know what other help you have. Tony Stewart's reply, I got me, myself, and I, and that's all I need.
Exactly. It's all about me, baby. It's all about me.
Remember 10 laps with Tony Stewart in our pre-race? The most common answer? Me.
Hello, I'm Chaplain Bob Blessing in Iraq. I'm with the 1st of the 184th out of California. Hometown is San Diego. Wish the best to Jeff Gordon. God bless you all.
It's all about winning.
To me, that's the only thing that's really ever driven me. I love the competition, but you know, it's really all about going to victory lane and celebrating with your team, and just there's no other feeling like it in the world. And I think I felt it for the first time when I was 6 or 7 years old. And that's the one thing that's always drawn me to racing and kept me interested in it for all these years. And it's the one thing that keeps me going now. And getting that victory means so much, and it's what you live for.
Jeff Gordon trying to win his 3rd Daytona 500, 30 laps to go. And before the last restart, he said this to his Hendrick teammate, Jimmie Johnson.
I think the only way we're going to get them is on that outside. You know, I just want to wait as long as we can. But I understand you got to do what you got to do, and hopefully we can do it together.
Jimmie Johnson tried the outside, slipped back a spot for his trouble. And as we get set for what could be the final and most important restart of the day, do you agree, Darrell, to get Tony Stewart, you're going to have to get around the outside of him?
Well, they're not able to get him up off the bottom yet. But I tell you what I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see a little nudge. He's going to wiggle, and they're going to try to get him on the inside. I don't see, unless Jimmie Johnson can get back up there and bump draft Jeff Gordon by Tony Stewart, I don't see any other way to pass him. Nobody has been able to all day.
Larry, it's a good time for those spotters to make some friends up on the roof.
Well, it is. I mean, there'll be more deal making going on. Earlier in the race, we saw it down on pit road about pit stops. Now the deal making will be on top of the roof. And I want to continue to watch our 2 guys that are making their final Daytona 500 start, Rusty Wallace and Mark Martin. They are running 7th to 8. They can see that checkered flag now to get that first 500 win.
Jeff Hammond, it doesn't matter if the guy in front of you is your best friend or your worst enemy. Right now, you need him.
You really do, Mike, and I think that's going to be the key right now, Chris, as we go down here toward the end, is who's going to work with who to at least get us within, you know, 3, 4, 5 laps of this race, and then they'll have to settle amongst themselves.
All right, so does Jeff Gordon have an advantage running 2nd with his teammate Jimmie Johnson running 4th?
I think so. I mean, I think that's a clear-cut advantage, but you also got to look back there and realize that Kurt Busch wants to win this race just as bad as anybody else, so he's going to go where he thinks he can get to the victory lane.
Tony Stewart leading. He has not won a restrictor plate race. Jeff Gordon has 8 restrictor plate wins, leads all active drivers, and there are 2 guys, sentimental choices that certainly owe for Daytona in their careers, great careers they've had. It would be terrific if one of them could wind up in victory lane. Let's rejoin Larry, Darrell, and Mike.
Well, there's Rusty's number 2 and 6th, and Mark Martin's number 6 and 7th. Darrell, do they have a chance?
I don't. They got to do something together. This would be a great time for them to work together for the common good. But I really think Kurt Busch, if Jeff Gordon should go to the outside, Kurt's going to fill the hole because he's got to move up 1 notch at a time. So rather than going with Jeff Gordon, which is what he should do, he'll probably plug the hole.
28 laps to go. Tony Stewart. Is he a man alone on this mission, or does he have friends? Let's find out.
Darrell, that was one of the better looking restarts that we've had all day long by all the top cars.
Yeah, they've been, you know, that front 4 or 5 have really been able to bust out every restart.
Gordon pushing Stewart around turn 2, trying to get away.
No, he's trying to get his attention. What he's trying to do is say, hey, where am I going to go next? And he's going to try to give him a wake-up call here, I think.
But look at this wad of cars back here, about 8th through about 15th. You see Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 8 car in the middle of it. That's his teammate Martin Truex in the 1 car up there running in the top 10.
They're going to start. Here's what's going to. They're going to start pushing and shoving, because the only way you're going to get people past you is you got to give them a bump draft. And when you give them a bump draft, sometimes it upsets them and they get to wiggling and then they have a wreck.
We go to California next Sunday on Fox. But first, 27 laps to go to settle the biggest race of the year.
A lot of unfinished business here yet.
3 wide in the eye of the storm. McMurray up high with Mayfield.
Plus, Mike, you don't know who back in the pack here has been holding back a little bit. The 1 car's back in there. Elliott Sadler's in there. He's in 13th place, and we know those Fords are fast. So there's guys back here that could make a run that we haven't even thought about.
17 cars single file Casey Mears breaks out and drops to the inside on Mike Skinner's number 23. Makes the pass to move into the top 10.
And at one time, Casey Mears was a lap down. That's a fast hot rod if he can get somebody to work with it.
He just got that lap back by getting the free pass just a couple of cautions ago, and now he's up there in the top 10.
But we've seen it time, and there's a lot of racing from a 4th, 5th, 6th on back in that 10th to 12th spot. But trying to get around the guy in the front, that's going to take some real effort on Jeff Gordon's part. He's going to have to pull out all the stops.
But no matter what the outcome for our 5th place car, Scott Riggs in that 10 car, what a great run he has had all day long. He'd love to get that Daytona 500 victory and on his 2nd start.
This joint is notorious for guys that have never won a race anywhere else, winning right here.
Tony Stewart is on the Bobby Allison plan. Allison is the last driver to lead the most laps 2 years in a row. It was 1981 and 82, and in 81, Bobby Allison finally won the Daytona 500.
That 20 car, Tony Stewart, he showed his strength early in the week, all through practice, and especially in that dual race on Thursday.
And as you can see, he's protecting the bottom, that yellow line. If somebody's going to pass me, dude, you're going to have to go below the yellow line, and then you're going to get black flag. You almost want to, if I was Tony, I'd almost want to set a guy up, kind of say, hey, why don't you try that inside?
Is it somewhat ironic that Rusty Wallace and Mark Martin are running nose to tail, 6th and 7th?
I think it's pretty cool they're both that close to the front right now, because those two guys, anybody in that first 10 or 12's got a shot at this thing. And one thing they won't do, they won't step out. They'll stay in line, they'll ride the bottom.
176 laps into this race. We have the top 28 cars within 3 seconds of each other.
I'll tell you what else we got. We are running the fastest laps we've run all day by almost a half a second.
Oh, track's cooling down, motors making power, cars got good grip.
And we're coming to
Tony Stewart's last lap was his fastest lap of the day.
I guarantee you, look at these top cars. We saw that throttle graphic earlier. I guarantee you all of these will be solid green, 100% full throttle.
Who's quickest this time? Well, Brian Vickers.
There are 6 fast cars, all the same speed.
Yeah, Brian Vickers is back in 15th position.
Well, look out there. Gordon shoved up a little bit. He almost opened the bottom up for Kurt Busch.
And look who's coming on the outside. Dale Earnhardt Jr. has not let a lap all day.
Here we go. Here we go. Down into turn 3.
He's
Gordon to the outside.
Known. And up front,
Jeff Gordon has said, I got to make my move. I got to do it on the outside. But who's there to help him? Nobody.
Looked like Scott Riggs in the 10 car has Hendrick engines. He wants to jump up there and get some of this.
Jimmy Johnson did not move up with his Hendrick teammate Jeff Gordon. He stayed on the bottom and ruffled up Riggs just a bit.
He wanted to get there, but Scott Riggs in the 10 was already there.
This is just what Kurt Busch wanted to have happen. Gordon, you go the outside. I'll plug the hole. Now it's my turn to work on Stewart.
Junior alongside of Mark Martin. You're riding with Dale Jr., the defending champion of the 500.
These guys get a really good pull down the back straightaway going into turn 3. That's where they can step out sometime.
I mean, look at this. The whole field is 2 and 3 wide down the backstretch.
This is no longer a 2-horse race. It's a 2-lane race.
Boy, this is when you're sitting there thinking, what am I doing? What have I chosen the wrong line? Have I chosen the wrong partner?
Have I chosen the wrong profession?
Yeah, that too.
All I know is we got 22 laps to go, 200,000 people. Nobody is sitting down here.
Let's go to Junior's pit.
It's almost always a good thing to pit the first time around. When the leaders pit, you pit with them. But the last round of pit stops, Earnhardt did not do that. He waited several laps. That put him behind, well behind all the leaders. Why did he wait? He didn't have enough gas to go all the way to the end if he had not waited. So this drive toward the front has come from deep in the pack. Nonetheless, he still is not happy with the way that car is handling, Mike.
Thanks, Dick. Kurt Busch in the 97, you saw him just launch Tony Stewart a car length out in front of the pack.
And you see what it done to Stewart. It just shot him that much further ahead. You can get to the back bumper of the guy in front of you, but boy, Jeff Gordon, I just don't think he's going to be able to make that pass on Stewart.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. at 8, he wants to go, but he's bottlenecked up. He can't go anywhere right now. He's behind that 10 car, Scott Riggs.
Tell you what I'd do if I was Jimmy Johnson. I'd do everything I could to get over there behind Jeff Gordon and bump draft him going into 3 and knock him in the lead.
Let's see if Scott Riggs allows him room to do that. He does not. Johnson's 48 on the bottom. Going to give a tap to the 97 of the Cup champion, Kurt Busch. How about Kurt Busch? 7 years ago, he was fixing water mains for the city of Las Vegas. 8 or 9 years ago, he was stocking supermarket shelves. Now he's got a chance to win the biggest stock car race in the world.
Look at him, 3 wide through the tri-oval, and Rusty Wallace in the 2, Mark Martin in the 6. They're getting up in this battle.
And Jeff Gordon is slowly falling back. I just think that outside move was a bad move on his part.
Stuck in the high lane. Jeff Gordon and the rest of that pack, they're going to have to move it on over if they're going to have a shot at Tony Stewart. Harvick slides up in front of traffic.
Cars upside down, cars everywhere.
And turn 4 is Calamity Corner once again. The field is frozen. Jeff Gordon came across with Stewart and Johnson side by side, but there are half a dozen cars littered between turn 3 and the start-finish line.
All right.
Last year's third-place finisher, Scott Wimmer. The 29 of Kevin Harvick. 42. The 42 of Jamie McMurray.
One of these cars was just standing up on its nose, swimming, spinning around like a water spout.
Greg Biffle. Jeff Burton had lost an engine prior to this. He coasts onto pit road. And here's Harvick's car, the backup car, damaged, looking a lot like Thursday's car.
But guys, we could see this coming and smell this coming for about 3 or 4 laps.
Here's how it unfolded between turns 3 and 4.
Because something happened to Greg Biffle, the 16 car that triggered all this.
I believe, watch it, see if it's Harvick's car. Oh no, it's the 22 car.
Scott Wimmer.
Look at him just spinning around. He got up on his nose and come back down on his wheels. Boy, that old Ford turn, she's mean, boys.
Watch the 22 of Scott Wimmer, the yellow car, take a wild ride here.
What started it, Greg Biffle came down in the 10, or the 10 went up to Greg Biffle. They got together anyhow.
The luckiest man there was Rusty Wallace. Got a little tap, but kept on going.
Now watch Wimmer. Over once, twice, 3 on his nose, 4, wham.
Huge.
So initial contact, the 10 and the 16, right there.
Looked like Biffle in the 16 actually came down into Scott Riggs in the 10. And Darrell, when you're flipping like that, it probably seems like eternity, don't it?
Oh, listen, I can't tell you what it does to you. You just pray that when you stop that you can remember what happened.
I think Scott Wimmer will remember this one for a long time. Pit stops. Not everybody's in. Stewart stayed out, so did Gordon.
Most of our top 5 or 6 stayed out. I think Mark Martin stayed out. Dale Earnhardt Jr. stayed out. Not surprised, because we're going to be probably within about 10 laps of this race and getting back going.
Kurt Busch stayed out. Here's Dick.
Well, Dale Earnhardt Jr. appears to be much happier with his car than he has been before. When he came across the line and realized he was third, he let out a war whoop. Yahoo, he said. And then he said that he thought he might bend the gas pedal. Cruz told him, don't worry about it. They got more. Steve?
Dick, when the caution came out, Greg Zipadelli said to Tony Stewart, what do you think? Tony very simply said, we got to stay out.
You agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I totally
Absolutely.
agree. I'm not coming in. I don't want to get back in that melee.
We just saw what happened to these guys that were back in the middle of it.
Let's have another look now. It happens right behind the lead pack. They're 3 wide, and there's Biffle coming
Biffle
down.
gets loose. See, Biffle gets loose going into 3. Comes down and gets into the side of Scott Riggs. Goes up the hill, clips Rusty. And then here comes the rest of the pack.
Talked about Rusty Wallace just getting by. Mark Martin in the 6 just barely got by on the bottom.
9 car, he gets more damage. Look at those cars. Look at the fire coming up to 42.
3 wide, you're in the middle. Clear. 3 wide. Stay low, stay low, stay low. Fuck.
That's Kasey Kahne you're riding with.
Clear in front of you, clear in front of you.
And I promise, that's all you got is that spotter because you can't see a thing. And not only that, it's late in the afternoon for this time of the day. The sun is right in your eyes.
Stay low, stay low, stay low. Back down, back down. Come on,
Dale Jarrett.
Come on down, come on down. Come on down, go on down, go on down, come on. Come on. Anything?
Look at the front end, I don't know about end.
We're going to fix that right front fender end.
This is Carl Edwards.
Keep on coming, baby. It's a ring behind you. Keep on coming. 12 right on your bumper. Come on, big, big ring. Slow her down.
Jeannie?
Jamie McMurray in and out of the car, but I guess the most important part is you're getting back in here.
Yeah, they think that's just got a hole in the oil cooler, so we're going to get back out and just try to run one lap. We came so close, you know, last year, and kind of learned our lesson with points, so we're going to try to get back out and just make as many as we can.
I know you're asking me the same question I'm asking you. What happened?
You know, I don't know. I just was up on the outside, and, you know, cars just kind of go everywhere, and you really can't see anything. I saw the 16 car going backwards, so I kind of knew that wasn't good.
All right, go get him, guys.
The best news, Jeannie, is that Bill Davis's driver, Scott Wimmer, walked away after flipping 4 times. Here's Wimmer climbing out.
And you heard Jamie say, one of the things they learned from last year, go back out and get you 5 or 10 more points. Might help you.
15 laps to go in the Daytona 500 on Fox.
Next weekend, NASCAR moves to California. Our coverage on Friday with Nextel Cup practice and the Craftsman Truck Series racing on speed. Then Saturday, Busch Series qualifying on speed, followed by Nextel Cup qualifying, the Busch Series racing on FX. Sunday begins with NASCAR this morning. That's on speed, leading up to the Auto Club 500, presented by Quaker State at the California Speedway. It's all on Fox. The NASCAR Victory Lane wraps things up on speed. So our coverage of NASCAR continuing next weekend across the Fox networks. 14 laps to go under the spectacular crash involving at least 11 cars just behind the lead pack. So Tony Stewart hangs on to that lead along with Jeff Gordon, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. racing all the way up to 3rd. Hasn't led a lap all day, trying to repeat as champ of the Daytona 500.
Kind of like, don't look now, but look over your shoulder, Tony Stewart. You got a lot of guys breathing down your neck. This restart right here is going to be so critical as far as who wins this race, because if Junior gets an opportunity to get out front, it's going to be a dogfight like you've never seen before.
And it says something when you can see a spectacular crash, and especially Scott Wimmer in the 22 car rolling 4 times, walking away. All the drivers okay. And now who's going to be okay in victory lane? Let's head back upstairs to Mike, Larry, and Darryl.
All right, Darryl, you're Tony Stewart. You've led this race most all day. You've led the most laps. You're out front. You're getting ready to restart. What do you need to do?
Well, he now knows that Jeff Gordon's going to go on the outside. Kurt Busch is right there. He's going to fill that hole. Jimmy Johnson's right behind Kurt Busch. It's going to be Stewart and Busch against Gordon and Johnson.
Larry, you agree?
Absolutely. And the crew chief, there's nothing else he can do now. It's with that driver and with that spotter. When I look at the top 10, we have 2 drivers that have won the 500. We have 8 that can almost touch victory lane now.
Daryl's getting jukey. Somebody hand him a steering wheel, please.
Man, I need gloves. I need gloves.
All right, let's go. Let's set the restart here. Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Of them, only Stewart has not won the Daytona 500. Kurt Busch, the defending series champion. Jimmy Johnson, last year's runner-up. Scott Riggs, what a great surprise he has been all through testing and all this week. He's 6th. And Mark Martin, Carl Edwards, they did not pit. Ryan Newman, Mike Skinner, that's the top 10.
And we had the top 11 all the way back through Travis Quaffle in the 77 that did not pit. They'll be single file when they come across the start-finish line with 13 laps to go. I bet they won't stay single file for long.
I bet they won't either. And there's 13 laps is an eternity at the end of the Daytona 500.
And we got trouble already on the restart here. Mike Skinner in the 23, Travis Quaffle in the 77, and they're spinning out through the grass. Caution is out again.
John Andretti just piled into Mike Skinner hard.
How in the world did that happen?
Well, Darrell, either somebody missed a gear or somebody's motor coughed. Now that's Skinner's car. Andretti's looks worse.
I was just thinking Skinner was 10th. He was running 10th, having a great run.
And Darrell, he was one of the cars that did not pit. You just wonder, those tires are hot. Did he spin those tires when he accelerated on the restart?
Well, that's obviously what somebody did up here. We'll have to take a look at it and see what happened.
After Skinner got turned sideways, this car of John Andretti's just pile drove into Skinner's, and now it rolls to a stop, and rescue crews will go to his aid. There is John. He's okay.
Well, look at his steering wheel. That's a hard lick. He bent. See how the steering wheel is warped? He knocked the fire out of him.
Can't even see out the windshield. Besides the windshield being dirty, the hood is turned up all in front of it.
And they're going to talk to Mike Skinner, who hands his helmet out of his car.
What a shame.
Takes out the earplugs.
Let's see what happened.
Climb
here,
out.
Here
Watch
the
top of your screen, the top 2 cars. Just out of frame. There we are.
Oh, Skinner gets into the back of Ryan Newman,
who hits
him into
Edwards.
Carl Edwards, and then here comes Travis Quaffle. It's just a chain reaction. It's no different than if you're on the highway and somebody in front of you started to go. It's kind of like sitting at a stoplight. Start to go and then stop before you have a chance to stop.
It almost looks like it started up there at about Kurt Busch, the 97, or Jimmy Johnson in the 48. They just started getting into each other.
Even Dale Jr.'s lagging back. There's a huge gap between Dale Jr. and Jeff Gordon.
And Mark Martin squeaks through once again, as does Rusty Wallace.
Rusty's been so lucky the last 2 times, and the mark was in. Up against the rev limiter there.
Kasey Kahne.
He got hit from behind.
Let's watch from Dale Jarrett.
Clear by 3 on Sterling. Clear by the gun spinner. Stay low, stay low, stay low, stay low.
He got the 9.
Clear, all clear. Everything.
It starts way up just behind Dale Jr. right there, and just everything accordions to the back where you just don't have any more room.
When you're back in the pack, you really can't see around the car in front of you. You're just anticipating what the start's going to be, and then the spotter says go, and if you happen to go and the guy in front of you doesn't, this is what happens.
The later in the race, the more you try to anticipate.
You got to have a good restart here. That's all you'll hear from your spotter.
From our cable cam.
They'll get on you constantly, the crew chief and the spotter will. Now look, you've been lagging back a little on these restarts. Let's get up here. It's the last one. Let's get going. And this is what can happen.
And what's a shame, Travis Quaffle in the 77, Mike Skinner in the 23. They've overcome a lot of problems today. Was up there in contention, at least for a good top 10 finish.
You see this happen on the roadways. The first car to hit their brakes is never part of the wreck. It's all the fellas following close behind, 3, 4, 5, 7 cars back, that end up with all the damage.
Yep.
Let's listen in on the defending champion of the Daytona 500.
This ought to be good.
Dale Jr.
Tell Tony, if you see him, I got to be on the bottom. You know, I don't want to, if he's going backwards on the top, I'm not going to jump up there and save him. We'll both go backwards. Tell him to be on the bottom. If he gets jumped on the outside, I can help him on the bottom a lot.
Now, why would Dale Jr. help Tony Stewart? 1 year ago, Tony Stewart pushed Dale Earnhardt Jr. into position to win the Daytona 500. Steve?
Hey, Mike, and I'll tell you who else wasn't happy about that restart is Tony Stewart. He said to his spotter, I'm not happy with the way the 24 was laying back on that restart.
Well, they're all 24's laying back. They're trying to get a run on him, and here you see him looking to the outside. He knows he's got to get him on one of these restarts if he's going to get him. And there, he had a run on him. That's what he wants to do.
The rule says you cannot pass to the inside on a restart before the green flag.
Or till you cross the start-finish line.
Jeff Gordon knows he's got to get Tony on these restarts, or at least a lap or two thereafter, or once they get going, I just don't think he has the steam to do it. You got to use the element of surprise here. What's he think I'm going to do? Do just the opposite.
Matt?
Mike, Jeff Gordon just said to Robbie Loomis, his crew chief, and Robbie is talking to a NASCAR official as we speak. He says, tell NASCAR to watch the 8. The 8 is laying back too much on the restarts.
Yeah, so
I didn't think the gap between Tony and the 24 was that great. It was 1 car length.
Yeah. Yeah, Dale Jr. was laying back there pretty good. They all are, man. You got to get a little run here. That's the Daytona 500. There's $1.5 million on the line.
You can't fire that slingshot unless you pull it back.
I'll deal with this after the race.
10 laps to go.
This week's Speed Channel presents a NASCAR show for the masses, NASCAR Nation. It's more than just news, it's all access to the hottest sport in the country behind the scenes. Declare your citizenship. NASCAR Nation exclusively on the Speed Channel. Jeff Hamm, we got some guys back in the pack, but Tony Stewart and Dale Earnhardt Jr., they worked together last year when Jr. won the 500 and Tony finished second.
Yeah, they did, and I'm sure that you're going to see some of that as we kind of go closer to the end of this race. If you look back in the back right there, in 16th place, how about Kevin LePage? Raced his way into the 500 back on Thursday in the Gatorade 150s. He, as well as the Petty cars, Jeff Green and Kyle Petty running 14th and 15th. Kyle Petty told us the other night, if I could finish 15th or better, it would be a great victory down here in Daytona. So right now, both those cars out of the Petty stable looking pretty strong.
As the sun sets on the careers of Mark Martin and Rusty Wallace, this year they'll wrap it up, still hoping for that elusive Daytona 500. Tony Stewart, a lot of racing left. He wants his first Daytona 500, and this is 7th try. Mike?
Joe Nemechek, who came from a lap down after a pit road penalty, is 9th. Dave Blaney had a speeding penalty, paid the fine. Now he's up to 10th. Elliott Sadler broke a transmission Thursday. He's up to 11th. Pole sitter Dale Jarrett's been massaging on his car. He's at 12th.
Well, you know, good thing for some of these guys back in here. I mean, Elliott Sadler and Dale Jarrett, teammates, could work together. You got Jeff Green and Kyle Petty back here 1450, could work together. So potentially better finishes than what they got now.
And Daryl, I think we certainly agree.
Make NASCAR aware that I've got a carburetor problem here, and I got to be really careful on this restart.
Oh, that's Dale Jarrett.
Saying he has to be careful. He don't want to get run over. But Daryl, I think we agreed with those top 7 or 8 staying out. But Rusty Wallace back there, he's now in 8th.
Hanging up whenever I give him full throttle, it hangs up.
Rusty has 4 fresh tires.
That's something good to have.
Yes,
I just
sir.
don't know if it's offsets track position or not.
23 cars on the lead lap. Tony Stewart, perhaps the finest racer in America today. Certainly this generation's A.J. Foyt. And lights are back on the safety car. Oil on the track. They want one more lap. They're going to have a look at turns 3 and 4. That oil, I believe, was from Jeff Burton, who was smoking just prior to the caution coming out. Burton's teammate, Kevin Harvick, has gone to the garage. One of the hardest hits on this most recent caution flag was that of John Andretti. Jeannie?
But the very good thing is John Andretti walking out, I guess, with somewhat of as much as you can get, a clean bill of health at this moment. Take us through what happened.
I don't know. I mean, Seems like I was running down through 3 and 4 the first time, and the guy just, as far as I know, made a left. All of a sudden I saw him in right and spun us down through, and we got hit in the side. And then I don't know, I heard that maybe the same guy might have did the same thing on the front straightaway, and they said go low, go low, go low, and I'm trying to steer. I mean, we weren't exactly in great condition with the car, but and I got turned down. I turned down into Mike then, so it's too bad for our VB. Plus, it's not go forward, but it's, you know, it's Daytona. We'll go to California now.
All right, thank you for the time. I don't know a common phrase late in the day here. Steve?
Well, Jeannie, don't count Mark Martin out yet. He said, pass the message to Rusty Wallace with this big old motor and me pushing and him pushing me. There ain't no way they can stop us.
How about that? Two guys that started their careers together back in the Midwest in the ASA. Here they both are in their final Daytona 500, seeing if they can help each other.
Yeah, it'd be kind of ironic if they ran first and second, and neither one of them ever have won, and so it'd be pretty cool. The other one's going to be mad, but
yeah, but we don't have time to pave another 3 lanes of width to this racetrack, and we may need it. There is the Harley Earl Trophy. That's Firebird 1, a GM styling study. Harley Earl was a friend of Big Bill France, who built Daytona Speedway and funded this trophy to be given to the winner of the Daytona 500.
Mike, can you imagine the vision of Bill France in 1959 when he built this speedway, that it would have 200,000 people here and the kind of racing we've seen today? What a visionary.
Bill knew. He said someday this will be one of America's great sports.
I know what the vision is of 23 drivers. They want a vision of being in that victory lane for that trophy.
The Rushville Rocket, Tony Stewart. He's been a champion in just about every racing series he's attempted. I saw him on the short track at Thompson, Connecticut last year, hop into an open wheel asphalt modified, a type of car he'd never driven, a track he'd never seen. He proceeded to run a line nobody ever uses, and he starts in the back and wins the feature against the track's best.
The best one I've heard is when he bought the old Munchkin, the little midget for Norchek. Got it out of his garage, been in there for 3 years, brought it to the Chili Bowl, stood in Victory Circle in that with that old car.
Everybody has a great Tony Stewart story, including Matt.
Mike, he has won in every form of racing he's competed in except a road course race. In fact, the last 2 years here at the 24 Hours of Daytona, if it was the Daytona 23, he'd be a 2-time winner of that, now closing in on the biggest race in NASCAR racing, the Daytona 500. 7 laps to go to Jeannie's Alaska.
Mike Skinner, I guess physically you're doing okay, but understandably mentally you're pretty frustrated. Can you tell us what happened? As we look at the video, we still try to figure it all out.
I really don't know what happened. You know, someone missed a shift on another restart up there, and maybe a car had transmission problems or something. But it looked, I think somebody missed a shift. We all got bunched up there. We all started accordioning each other, and I got plowed from the behind, knocked me into Ryan real hard, and got spun around there. And then John was just coming really, really hard, and I don't know if they didn't tell him there was wrecking or what, but he plowed us pretty hard. But I want to thank Argent Mortgage for coming on board with Bill Davis Racing and myself, giving us this opportunity. Hopefully we can do some more races with them this year.
We hope so too, because we like to see you out here. Thank you for the time, guys.
Mike Stewart, okay, so is Scott Wimmer, who went for that big flip. When they come to the start-finish line, the green flag will be waving, and there'll be 15 miles to go.
Jeff Gordon just drove alongside of Tony Stewart. Sure, he was just giving him a little wave, saying, hey, dude, wonder which way I'm going to go next.
Here it is.
2 of the best.
For the biggest single-day prize in stock car racing, green flag.
6 to go, 6 laps.
Tony better be careful jumping out to that little lead like that. It gives you a little chance to get a run on him.
Elliott Sadler inside with a run on Blaney and plenty of help. Single file at the front.
He has help from his teammate Dale Jarrett in that 88 car.
Jeff Gordon is trying to time this pass. He's trying to make a pass. He's going to try to shove him up off the bottom. He's looking, he's looking. He needs some help.
5 cars at the front.
Here he goes.
Here goes Gordon to the outside.
Is Junior going to go with him in the 8 car? Trying to make his mind up. He's going to stay with Tony Stewart. He's going to stay on the rear bumper of that 20 car.
Kurt Busch stays to the bottom. Will Jimmy Johnson help his teammate? or try to get to the front on the inside?
I believe for this race, if I was Jimmy Johnson, I'd go to the outside.
Look at Junior. He slams up to the outside. He's going to take the lead with 5 laps to go.
Unbelievable. For the first time today, Dale Earnhardt Jr. leads the 500, but not for long. Here comes Stewart and a big pack on the bottom.
Boy, Junior should have dove to the bottom and closed that door up. He had the pass made.
Let's see if he can get that run off turn 2. Jeff Gordon in the 24th trying to push him. It's a drag race down the backstretch.
Oh, Jeff Gordon's car is just not performing right now like Junior's is. Tony should be a set duck. He's got 3 great cars on the outside. There's Jeff giving Junior a push. Can he push him to the lead?
This is where he got the good run a while ago, coming off turn 4. Jeff Gordon in the 24 trying to push him.
Oh, smoker in the middle.
That's a
Kasey Kahne.
It's just a little fender rub back in there. I saw it earlier.
At the line, Stewart by half a car length. 4 laps to go.
Man, you can get up there even with that other guy, but you just can't get the pass made. Or can you? Yes, he made it.
Go to the bottom now. He'll slam the door.
He made it.
And this crowd is on their feet going wild.
What a pass. Way to go, Junebug.
3 wide from 11th on back.
Now what are you going to do, Tony?
Got to hug the bottom. Got to go with Dale, don't you?
That's what, I mean, he's stuck to the bottom. His car's been there all day long. There's no time to move around now.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. did not lead a lap until lap 195. Hard to believe, but he's going to be out front with 3 to go.
I guarantee he's driving out that back window as much as he is in that windshield. He slams the door on Gordon, 24, 3 to go.
That's what you do when you're in the lead. You just move around, move around.
Look at Kurt Busch in the 97, 3 wide. He's going to make the pass.
He gets by Stewart.
And here comes Gordon.
Mark Martin back at 7th, still part of the chase here.
Gordon still thinks he can make that outside car in the wall off the 2. I think it's the 9 car.
But he keeps going.
Debris all over the place.
Yep. Kasey Kahne bounced off the wall, turn 2.
And Jeff Gordon has made a pass.
Caution is out. The field freezes.
Caution is out.
And NASCAR scoring freezes the field at the last scoring loop the cars cross before the instant of yellow.
We've seen this before. Remember Talladega. I believe the 24 had made the pass. I'm not sure, but I believe he had.
Three laps to go. Caution is out, but the air has not been let out of the balloon. Wow.
But just remember, unlike when we were on the air, the last 4 years, we will be guaranteed at least 1 attempt at a green-white checkered should we go that distance.
Exactly.
Thank you, NASCAR.
Ooh, baby.
Don't touch that dial.
That was some cool racing, wasn't it? I loved it.
It was unbelievable. Dale Jr.'s not a factor all day long, and with 5 laps to go, he pops outside to the front.
I believe I'm going to start calling him the Silver Fox. He kind of laid back there like old David Pearson used to be.
Let me call David, see if that's okay.
I mean, early in the race, he was sideways on pit road, sitting in his pit box.
I'll just call him a Fox.
With 5 to go, here's Dale Jr. down on the inside. Kurt Busch with him. Jeff Gordon, the 24, up top.
You know what I think happened? I think Tony was trying to hug the bottom so hard that he got to bogged his car down a little bit, and Junior got a run on him. A lot like Michael did in the 150.
Yes, and Junior got that little side draft off of Tony that propelled him in front. Dick Berggren?
With Pete Rondo, Jr. has really not been a factor in this race until the very tail end. Pete, what's happening? How is he such a factor now?
Well, we were off a little bit during the middle of the race, but we tuned on it a little bit, got it to his liking, and he's pretty happy with it right now.
Are you excited?
Oh, yeah, very excited.
I wouldn't think so. First day on the job, Mike.
A great short tracker in his native state of Maine. Pete Rondo has come down here and taken over the controls of the DEI pit box, and he's got Dale Jr. up at the front with 3 to go. The 11th caution flag ties the race record set in 1968.
He's sitting on a hot toolbox right now. And that's ice water running through his veins if he ain't nervous.
But can you imagine, this is his first Daytona 500 as a crew chief. He took over from Michael late last year, and here he is in contention to win the Daytona 500. with the defending Daytona 500 champion, Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Wouldn't you expect, Larry, if somebody gave you that job, that you'd probably come down there and be pretty successful your first time out?
I did it in 1997. It worked out in 1998.
You kind of coming in with a stacked deck.
The race distance is 200 laps, and we'll hit that next time by. However, we'll have a green-white checker finish. What that means is that once the track is clear, the starter will give one to go, regardless of the total number of laps run. Wave the green flag, next time around the white flag, and the next time around the payoff window. Steve?
Mike, when the caution came out, a frustrated Tony Stewart said, guys, I'm sorry, there wasn't a thing I could do about what happened.
Well, we haven't seen him get anybody try to pass him all day other than Jeff Gordon. And we've said for a week down here, Jeff Gordon's got a fast race car. Probably the fastest car we saw in practice, and now he's showing it here at the end of the race.
Dick Berggren?
Well, Junior's got a pretty fast race car too, and he is trying to persuade everybody that's involved in the front of this pack to do a fast restart. Most important, based on his conversation, is a fast restart so there's not a crash at the restart.
Well, Junior's in kind of a tough spot because he's got Jeff Gordon in front of him and Gordon's Hendrick Motorsports teammate Jimmy Johnson behind him. Matt?
Jeff just said if he doesn't lay back, we'll do that. But what I'm concerned about is getting too good of a start and then getting too much of a gap where the other cars can make a run. Jeff's talking to crew chief Robbie Loomis right now, relaying that back and forth.
Now, Darrell, how do you get too good of a start?
Well, you get out there and you're like, we've said it all along, you're a set and duck. And that car back there, the 8-car Junior, can get a big suck on you because he's got a draft on you. Come off a 2 over there, he's got such a run, you're going to have to figure out, can you block him or not?
Behind those three, Gordon, Earnhardt, and Johnson, Kurt Busch, the Nextel Cup champion, is 4th. Scott Riggs is 5th. Tony Stewart now 6th. Sterling Marlin, a 2-time 500 winner, is 7th. Then Mark Martin, Jeremy Mayfield, and Carl Edwards.
I think this is going to be pretty sanitary at the front. I think Junior's probably realizes I'm in a box. I can't do anything. I got Gordon in the front. I got Johnson behind me. If I make a move here, no question about what's going to happen.
If he opens the door, Jimmy Johnson in the 48 will fill that hole.
Hendrick Motorsports would probably like to run 1-2.
We have 23 cars still on the lead lap, so there's no question we could see action back there for 8th, 10th, 12th. All of these guys want this good finish in this Daytona 500.
Rick Hendrick, as a car owner, first won the Daytona 500 in 1986 with Jeff Bodine. He was the winning car owner when Darrell won it in 1989, and twice since with Jeff Gordon. There is Rick Hendrick.
Well, this would be a great start on Gordon's 4th championship, or 5th championship, drive for 5. And this is, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it here. Get it started off right.
They will make one attempt at a green-white checker finish. If the caution comes out, the race is over. This is it. This is the Daytona 500 right here.
And you saw Junior jump to the outside of what I thought was a pretty fast race car down there, Tony Stewart. And that can really, if he gets up on the outside of Jeff Gordon, we got a race on our hands because it's going to come. They're going to come from everywhere.
Gordon's on the gas, green flag, 2 laps to settle it.
They got that fast restart. There you see Dale Earnhardt Jr. goes to the bottom, slams the door on Jimmy Johnson in the 48. Looks like Johnson's going to get kicked to the high side, though, by Kurt Busch in the 97.
Stewart is blocked in the 20, nowhere to go. It's Junior and Gordon.
Gordon's not going to give up that yellow line. You can bet that.
8-car with you, 2-car gap, then 2x2.
Now Junior's got help. Kurt Busch. No, Busch slices to the outside. He wants to win the 500.
Coming outside.
He gives Jeff Gordon a push going off into turn 3.
Kurt Busch, the Nextel Cup champion, fights his way to 2nd.
It's a good thing he can't get any closer than that, because I believe he would have probably given Gordon a big shot up the hill.
Here they come, boys. White flag, 1 to go.
Scott Riggs to 4th. Stewart looks to go 3 wide. Thinks better of it. He is trapped behind Jimmy Johnson.
Boy, that 97 car of Kurt Busch is a fast piece of equipment right there. He's got to look.
He's the only Ford in the front 5. What can he do?
Look at Scott Riggs in that 10 car. He's trying to get him a top 5 finish in this Daytona 500. And there's Jimmy Johnson on the 48 on the outside, Daryl.
Somebody needs to get up there and go with him, but I don't know if Tony Stewart can run the outside or not. He hadn't all day.
Busch to the outside. Gordon slams the door on him into turn 3.
6 cars have a chance to win it. Jeff Gordon's going to lead him into turn 4. They're 1 mile from home.
Tony Stewart just slid up the racetrack. He and Jimmy Johnson are going to make contact.
3 wide. They're bouncing off each other.
Jeff Gordon's going to win his 3rd Daytona 500. Kurt Busch, Dale Jr., and Scott Riggs completes a dream week with a 4th place finish.
Boy, he did. And by those cars right there, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th.
Thank God, boys. I was doing it.
Boys, Tony Stewart and Jimmy Johnson are going at each other down there in the turn 1. They were banging all over each other.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson ended up 5th coming across the line.
You are the man.
These 2 guys right here, they've already rammed into each other once.
You know what? It was coming for the checkered flag for the Daytona 500.
Suck it up, big boy.
Richard Petty has won the great race 7 times. Cale Yarborough's a 4-time winner. And now
you're the man.
Jeff Gordon joins Dale Jarrett and Bobby Allison as
dedicate this one to the families on that crash, buddy, okay? Absolutely, absolutely.
Jeff Gordon now a 3-time winner of the Daytona 500. And Rick Hendrick takes you back to October, Martinsville, Virginia, on a plane carrying his son Ricky, his brother John, John's 2 daughters, Randy Dorton, Jeff Turner, Joe Jackson, all aligned with the Hendrick Motorsports team, Scott Lathrop, Tony Stewart's helicopter pilot, and the 2 pilots of that aircraft crashed en route to the race at Martinsville, Virginia. Coming to the line. Watch Jimmy Johnson's 48 and the 20 of Tony Stewart.
Stewart went to the outside, made a big run, and he went up the hill and come up, got him behind, blocked him behind Jimmy Johnson. Then I thought they were gone right here. I thought that was a big crash, but they held on to him, raced back to the line. You can see Mark pushing Scott Riggs across in front of Jimmy Johnson. And now watch down here. Tony is some kind of frustrated and some kind of upset. Run 500 miles, don't have a scratch on your car, and then decide to beat them all up after the race is over.
Daryl, there's only going to be one happy man in Daytona, and that's this man.
Can you imagine leading the most laps of the race, got the best car all day, and get shoved back to 6th?
Dick Berggren.
Well, Dale Earnhardt Jr. with a smile on your face, surprised at that, finishing 3rd. What a wild finish.
Yeah, we my buddy Arturo Gotti says we saved it for the championship rounds. The car wasn't that good during the race, and he made some adjustments, and I could drive right up through there, man, and it was really good. I got the lead there with a couple laps to go, and I thought about I had enough room to pull in front of Gordon in the middle of 1 and 2 and hold him back there, but I didn't know if I had him cleared or not. He come on by me down the back straightaway, but he had a good car. We had a good car. I don't know if it was a 3rd place car, but it was good. And I want to thank my guys for staying with it all day.
If you'd had a little help at the end, because you've won that race.
Absolutely, yeah, man. I had a great car. It was amazing the difference from the car then and maybe 50 laps before then. I mean, it was a really, really fast. But Roger Chevrolet, she runs good when you need it to.
Nice job. Ginny?
Jimmy Johnson getting greeted by his new wife, and I will politely say, excuse me, you can get in close to your hubby here. Can you take me through the last lap and what was going on with Tony Stewart?
I don't know. I mean, we're all trying to block and do what we can, and evidently he was upset with me blocking him like you're supposed to. And he tried running me in the outside wall down in turn 1, and heck, I just tried saving my car, and we bounced off each other a few times. So there's no retaliation. we hit wheel to wheel and almost spun me out, and I ran back into him. So one of those deals. I'm sure he's upset. He led a lot today and didn't win the race, but congratulations, Hendrick Motorsports, Jeff Gordon, those guys for doing it.
Absolutely. Thank you for the time. All right.
The average speed, 135.1 miles an hour with all those caution flags. Almost exactly the same winning speed of Lee Petty in 1959.
And you know what? We've been up here for like 4 or 5 hours, had a heck of, but I wish there was a few more laps to go. I love the end of that race. That was so cool.
I don't know many of us could stand a couple of more laps to go.
Man, I love that.
Jeff Gordon rolls into Gatorade victory lane with his 70th career Nextel Cup victory.
It's all about this flames. That car runs so good when it's got those flames on it.
Painted flames, no decals.
Those are pretty flames.
The 4-time series champion notches his 70th series win. His career started November '92 in what was Richard Petty's final career race. And who would know on that day that this young man would pick up where the King left off?
I know I've told you before, but Rick Hendrick called me at the end of '92 and said, what do you think about my rookie? I said, he'll never make it. Because he had wrecked about 11 or 12, 15 times that year. I said, I don't think he's going to make it, Rick.
Well, he's made it to the head table at the Waldorf now 4 times, and now he's made it to Daytona 500 with this man, Rick Hendrick, 3 times. 4 lead changes in the last 9 laps. Wow.
Only thing would have been better, Larry, is if you was working on my car and it's me and you.
You better believe it. And Mike interviewing us, right?
That's right. I won the Daytona. He won't do that, I know that.
He might. He has every right to.
He's calm. He's cool. He'll get out. Yeah, atta boy, atta boy.
Robbie Loomis is crew chief.
Come on out of there. Let me see you jump up and down. Let me see you do the Icky shuffle.
Let's join the celebration.
A hug by owner Rick Hendrick. With 3 laps to go, Rick Hendrick came on the radio and told you, Jeff Gordon, it was time, and you said, yes, sir, it is. How did you hold those guys off?
I tell you what, I don't know who to thank first because it was just an amazing day. First, I want to dedicate this win to all the families and you know, those who were lost in that tragic accident. You know, last year it's been a tough time, and you know, Jimmy's gotten some victories, but this one is a Daytona 500, and it just doesn't get any sweeter than this. And you know, those folks will never go out of our thoughts. But I got to thank these guys on this DuPont Chevrolet. They are so awesome. They put so much work into this car. I want to thank Pepsi, GMAC, Quaker State. It's just been Chevrolet. It's been an amazing off season. And I didn't know what the week had in store for us. I knew we had a good car. We hadn't showed everything, and you know, I knew over 500 miles that the pit crew, that team, and hopefully you know, some patience would pay off there at the end, and it certainly did. And I'm so stoked. Daytona 500.
Yes.
Woo!
Yes. Now, when Junior went around on the outside, you came on the radio and said, imagine that, Junior passing all by himself, taking the lead. Were you concerned about your chances for victory then?
Let's not say I gave up, but I thought it was over. I mean, he hadn't been anywhere all day long, and then all of a sudden he came out of nowhere, and he pushed me so hard down this front straightaway when I was trying to take the lead from Tony that I knew that it was going to be impossible to keep him behind me. The best thing that happened to me was Kurt Busch. I want to thank Kurt Busch. You know, he got into me in the 150s, but we talked earlier in the day, and we knew everything was good. And by him getting by that 8 car and getting in front of him, then we just left them other guys to battle, and I just kept him in my mirror. And oh my goodness, what a just amazing day. I don't know, who didn't I thank? GMAC? Who else?
Well, everybody dreams of winning this race. Jeff Gordon's not done it once, not twice, but 3 times. He's a winner of the Great American Race, giving owner Rick Hendrick his 5th Daytona 500 victory. And there's Steve Berge. 6 months ago, Mike Joy, he sat down with a piece of paper, came up with 28 different things that he wanted the Hendrick guys to try on this race car, and they did it. It's now going to go to Daytona, USA.
How many headlines tomorrow across America will start out, I am so stoked, the Daytona 500.
And it doesn't matter how good you are, you still are always amazed that you won the Daytona 500.
There are more great stories. Sterling Marlin finishing 8th, Kevin LePage 9th, and we'll talk to Tony Stewart when we return to Daytona.
Back live at Daytona, Chevy congratulates Jeff Gordon and the 24 DuPont Chevy Monte Carlo on today's win. The defending manufacturer's champion records so far, 557th win overall. Chevy, the revolution, races on, and Jeff Gordon gets it.
Hey, boys, we got him! Daytona 500! Woo-hoo-hoo! You guys are awesome!
An excited 33-year-old Jeff Gordon, a long way from Indiana, his 70th career win, his third Daytona 500 title. This is a guy who, back in high school, he was voted the prom king. The day of his graduation, got his diploma, changed into his racing gear so he could go to a dirt track and enjoy racing. Let's go back, Jeff Hammond and Tony Stewart and Jimmy Johnson. We heard Jimmy's version of the story.
Yeah, they come off that corner right there. He'd been trying to pass Jimmy Johnson. Finally saw a hole right there. Got together coming off of 3 and 4. They bounced across each other all the way back down to the start-finish line with Tony Stewart winding up in 7th place.
Thought he was going to win it. Let's check in with Steve Burns.
Tony, you led so much of this race. You had a great race car. How disappointing not to win it after a great day.
That's the hard part. It's hard leading sometimes like that. Well, watch it, guys. But, you know, we had a great car. I mean, to lead all those laps that we led, I tell you, I'm so stoked about the way these guys brought this car here. It was an awesome race car, and just got caught up there on the restarts at the end.
What was Chad Knaus upset about?
I think he was upset about me running into his driver after the race, but I think his driver did enough running into us before we got to the checkered flag. So Chad's just upset. I don't know what Chad's upset about, but that's just Chad, I guess. I mean, if he wants to talk about it, I'm easily accessible.
Mark Martin finishes 6th today. Great run today. You and Rusty running together at the end of that event. A little bit of deja vu.
Really, you know, Rusty and I have raced 30 years together fighting for the same turf, and he and I have never had a problem, and we made a pact before the race that if it came down to it, that I would help him or he would help me. But I really want to thank the Viagra team and Pat Trison for fixing my Taurus. We wrecked it twice. Since we've been down here, they fixed it both times. It was awesome today, and they gave me, I felt like at the end I had a chance, and that's all I could ask for. We weren't the dominant car, but we did have a chance, and I'm real grateful for that.
Okay to end your career without a Daytona 500 win?
Hey, it's okay. Just another shot of Gatorade.
Mark Martin finishes 2nd today.
All right, one more plug out the door. Mark Martin, Rusty Wallace do finish in the top 10. We'll talk with Kurt Busch in a moment as Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon celebrate Gordon's win. Tony is easily accessible. We'll address that as well when we come back on Fox. Jeff Gordon with an exciting 4 lead changes in the last 9 laps of the 47th running of the Daytona 500. Pulls into victory lane. Right behind him, Kurt Busch, and he's with our Dick Berger.
Like the drivers do. Good night, everybody.
Busch, an incredible drive today. How did you do those last few laps to finish 2nd?
We got a great run from the 10 car. I had to block him. Tony was pushing him. Got by the 48 and the 8. It was just an unbelievable ride all day with adjusting on the car and being in position late. We knew it was going to get busy at the end, and I had a run on Gordon, but I wouldn't have made it by him. We would have stalled out. The field would have caught us. It would have been 6 wide, cars upside down. I couldn't quite clear him, and so just a great day for our Sharpie Ford and what we did as a team to build this great car. I'm very happy and satisfied with this finish, but I've got a few years ahead of me to try to win this thing.
Was it as wild behind the wheel as it was to those of us watching you?
It was an ecstatic race behind the wheel, the way that everybody worked together, and we all wanted the yellow line, but yet we all gave, and there was give and take. Just a nice balance of great racing and good action.
Nice job. Congratulations.
Great way to begin his defense of his Nextel Cup title. 2nd to Jeff Gordon. Dale Jr. came on to lead near the end. Scott Riggs, a great day. Kevin LePage, who came in here without a sponsor, ends up in the top 10. Wow.
I am physically, mentally, and emotionally drained. This is the hardest race I've driven in years. I'm worn out.
And how about that green-white checkered? The top 13 cars on the last lap, 10 of them changed position and finished in about a half a second of each other.
Wow. The 47th Daytona 500 goes to Jeff Gordon in a race that halfway down the backstretch in the last lap, any one of 6 or 7 drivers could have won it.
And